Get your attention, please. Are you ready?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to call the meeting of the governing body of the Village of Corrales to order. We have a bit of a crowd tonight, I guess you've noticed. And so we're going to change the time limits a little bit because we don't want to spend several hours hearing the same thing. So for the Corralinos Forum, the overall time limit is going to be an hour, which will be about 2 minutes per person speaking. And for the ACD, which is going to come up under new business, it'll be 2 minutes also because of the number of people speaking. Should you get tired of sitting here and you want to talk to your neighbor, please go out to the foyer and talk or go outside, because with this crowd, it'll be difficult to get good minutes and also hear what people are saying. I would ask you also to either turn your phones off or set them on vibrate. And having done that, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Miera.
Aquí.
Councilor Woolman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
And Councilor Alsobrook is somewhere over the ocean.
Yeah. Costa Rica.
Some ocean,
It's enough.
somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Mayor, to disturb the roll call. I have a hard time with dropping the minutes down to 2 minutes. Just because if somebody didn't know it was going to be 2 minutes, they might have prepared something to say and practice for 3 minutes.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
So too
So
bad.
now I need a motion, please, to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the proposed agenda to remove item 1 under new business, resolution 2457.
Do you have a second?
What's that?
Would you repeat that?
Yeah.
He has a motion to remove consideration action approval of resolution 24-57, approving Corrales Main Street Arts and Cultural District Cultural Economic Development Plan. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Hearing none, we will move on. How do you vote on the primary motion of approving the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Signify by saying no. Hearing none, we'll move on again. First, we have a presentation by Jennifer Failer. I hope I said that right.
Here she is.
From the Bureau of Reclamation. Did I say that right? Oh, thank you. I didn't practice. Well, I didn't practice it beforehand. I didn't ask. Sorry, that's my fault.
I bet you're happy you're here tonight, aren't you? You got quite a crowd.
Just think you won't have to repeat this
That's
again.
right. Yeah, do a great job.
No pressure.
This is about the 199 project.
Yes, and we have slides,
Okay.
PowerPoint slide. Yes, it is. River Mile 199. There we go.
And if you need to, I think you can detach that microphone and speak into it.
I think I'll just stay right here behind this safe
Okay, that's all
podium.
right. That'll work too.
For my team, because you're gonna ask hard questions and I'm not gonna have the answers.
They will ask the hard questions.
Jay will ask them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're there. Very good. Well, thank you very much for having us, putting us on the agenda. I'm Jennifer Failer. Well done. With the Bureau of Reclamation, I'm the area manager of we call it the Albuquerque area office. We're really the Rio Grande area office. We have the headwaters of the Rio Grande down through about 100 miles down into Texas is our area. We don't
I'm sorry.
have that much river. Thanks. It's a lot of responsibility. We report up to our Salt Lake region, and the Bureau of Reclamation's out in the 17 Western United States. But let's talk about Corrales River Mile 199 project. I will also add that I was a river engineer when I started with the Bureau of Reclamation. It was in Northern California, which was a very high mountain, rocky river. Very different from the Rio Grande, very different challenges. That's why I brought the Cracker Jack team to ask the hard questions. I'm less familiar with the sand bedded river issues. But I have been here since 2011. I came out and took the job then and moved to Corrales when I relocated from California to New Mexico. So I'm a Corrales resident since 2012 and I've really enjoyed my time here.
Well, we're
I'm
glad you're here.
Absolutely. So I will hit all these topics. Let me introduce actually Ann Dement, who's been our river maintenance project manager for over 5 years now, I'm pretty sure. I've been with Reclamation quite a few years before she was our river maintenance project manager. And then Jen Koba, I'm not sure I know your last name, Jen Koba. You've been with us a year. And PhD engineer, very smart guy, and is learning really fast. So these guys are the experts on this project, but I wanted to be the one to walk us all through it. So I will hit all these topics. I am not one to read the slides to you. I will look for you to read the slides, and please stop me with questions because I'll just kind of add some information from my own perspective. But if you have questions, please stop us and ask them as we go. We're happy to take questions at the end as well. But this is a pretty technical presentation because, you know, river engineering is a fairly technical field. But let's jump on into it. I'm assuming folks have heard of the Bureau of Reclamation. Not a whole lot of folks have, but we play a fairly prominent role here in the Middle Valley. So but what folks might not know is our river maintenance responsibilities and authorities is on the next slide. We are here for issues with river for low water. You all heard of the Corps of Engineers. They deal with issues of flooding and the high water situations. That's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Bureau of Reclamation, because of the United States responsibilities to deliver water to Mexico. The Bureau of Reclamation has responsibilities when there's not a lot of water in the river. It's a kind of the 2-year return flow level. That's when you'll see us out there taking care of issues along the river. Those have to do, it says water delivery. It's really agricultural. We're an agricultural oriented organization. That's why we came and built a lot of our projects. So water delivery to farmers, associated facilities, if there's public safety issues, again, at those lower floor issues. When it does come to flooding, Reclamation and the Corps will join forces, but really their authorities kick in there. Typical types of projects that we have to deal with. We do not have engineered levees all up and down the Rio Grande. So when it's just a spoil levee, we make sure to keep the river away from a spoil levee because those won't last very long with flows against them. So those are a lot of the projects that we do out there. Any irrigation infrastructure, we will take action on the river to maintain the viability of any irrigation infrastructure along the river. The channel's grading in some areas, which is it's raising, it's degrading in other areas. That's the situation here, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Any vegetation encroachment, it's really a sediment management issue. Our river maintenance program, there's either too much or not enough sediment in the river, and those cause different types of issues, and that's what we're usually battling with our river maintenance program. Next slide. Again, those authorities, they're documented in the Flood Control Acts of 1948 and 50. That's what brought Reclamation and the Corps of Engineers to the Middle Rio Grande and to Mexico. New Mexico are those authorities. Our program is from up in Velarde down to Caballo. So we have 260 miles of river that we take care of. And along with that is the Rio Grande. It's the river channel we're talking about, along with the low flow conveyance channel that was constructed back in the 50s. Those are all fall under our river maintenance. Yep, go ahead. The project area, this has been on our radar for decades. The Corrales siphon, that's now I think on some folks' mind, held this project up for a while. We've gotten past those days and studied it in 2018 to come up with it. Actually really became a project, and when we studied all the issues about 2018, and we've been moving forward with design ideas, lots of meetings with folks. And a lot of the issues it starts up at the Arroyo de la Bronca and it ends, I'm guessing most folks know the Harvey Jones channel. It's the flood control channel that comes through Corrales there. So that's the extent of the project. And next slide. What's wrong with the river? The Middle Rio Grande is a heavily managed river. It's not allowed to be a natural river system because of things that Reclamation and the Corps have done to it, but it was a river rectification. We straightened it, and built levees to keep it in the channel so that all the development became possible in Albuquerque. When you constrain a river, especially the river is as powerful as the Rio Grande, when there's floodwater coming down, snowmelt runoff, when there's arroyo flows coming down from monsoons, this river can have a lot of power, but we've told it it has to live between these levees, and it doesn't like that. And we'll get into some of the reasons, some of the ways it fights back. But you see over on the left-hand side, it used to be a very wide, we call it a sand braided river. There wasn't any vegetation constraining it. It got to do whatever it wanted to do in the wider sandy areas. Because of those levee systems, because of when Cochiti Dam was built, it reduces the power and the strength of the flows that come through here. It's narrowing as you move in time from 96 to 2018. You'll see it narrowing and the vegetation encroachment. So it has less area to move. It's basically sinking, which is degrading or incising, and it's narrowing. So those are the trends that we're looking to fight with our project. Next slide. Just more about the incision. This reach that we're talking about has the distinction of being the most disconnected from its floodplain. The graph you're seeing, the orange, there is the old floodplain from 2001 was a lot lower that you can see. And then the more yellow line, which is the one that bounces around a lot more, is the current, 2018 when we did our study. That's what it looked like. So the water, we do not see enough water in the Middle Valley for it to get up on those floodplains. It's about 12 feet from the bottom of the channel to the top of the floodplain. And we just haven't seen those kinds of flows. So it's disconnected from its floodplain, which causes a myriad of issues that we'll get into as well. Next slide. Because it doesn't have a floodplain, it doesn't have room to meander, it's attacking its own banks. So it's trying to meander and form a meander pattern, and all it's doing is running into the bank. So it's causing erosion in the banks, creating its own sediment that it then carries downstream. Processes that are not good for the habitat, not good for moving water reliably through the system and maintaining a stable channel through this reach. The meanders would be good if the river had room to fix itself, but because it's constrained and it gets too close to the levee, an agency like Bureau of Reclamation is going to come back and put it in its place because we can't let it attack the levees and cause future flooding. So what does all this lead up to? Next slide are the issues that we're seeing today. You folks can probably add more to this list than what we even came up with, but that Corrales siphon used to be 12 feet underground. It was buried with about 12 feet of sediment on top of it, and it is now exposed, completely exposed. So that's the incision that we're talking about, the degradation. This is causing the fix that the district came out and covered that with riprap, and it's changed the channel formation. There is lots of boating folks are using the river these days, so the fire department's having to go out and do a lot of rescues, and the river's just not stable and safe for people to be out in this particular reach of the river. And the riparian health, because of that disconnection from the floodplain, the trees are suffering from that, and particularly in this reach of the river. So again, there's dates on those photos of the siphon sort of exposing itself. So those are the issues we'll be looking to fix. So let's talk about the project. The goals of the project, we have 3 goals. First and foremost is to prevent a levee failure. That we'll get either us or the Corps of Engineers out there anytime there's risk of failure of a levee. We also want to set up the river to use natural systems as much as possible for as long as possible. We're going to come out and spend a good chunk of money, really work this river. We want to set it up so that it can take care of itself for the hopefully next 20-30 years. This would be a more stable reach of the river. We expect to be able to improve the aquatic habitat. We have listed species out in the river, and again, maintain a of healthy channel, stable channel. The final goal, we've been at this since the 50s. Reclamation's been working on this river a long time. We pride ourselves in learning and always evolving. We don't just have one fix and go out and do that same fix all the time. So there's some features that we've built into this design that are pretty innovative that we're excited to try and we'll learn from, and we'll evolve, continue to evolve our river maintenance program. So next slide. Bank stabilization. This is a tried and true method. We know rock tames water every time, so we're using some methods that we know will work. So rock embankment. What's new about this feature? I'm not sure, and Ann could correct me if we've built a floodplain in before. So rock embankment, floodplain, and then another embankment is something sort of innovative in our approach. And they'll be planted, the floodplain will be planted, it'd be future bird habitat. Should the river, the flows reach that floodplain, which we'd hope they would, it'll also be very good fish habitat or aquatic habitat there. So high level of certainty with this feature. This will be on the next slide. It shows an aerial view of where we'll be doing this bank stabilization. So it's on a meander bend. We want to stop the river from migrating upward in the slide where there would be a levee that it would attack. So we're moving the river back into its channel where where we need it to be for the safety of this reach of the river. So that feature you just saw will be constructed along this line. Again, pushing the river, it'll cause erosion of this bar. That sediment will move down and create other features. Again, kind of we want to set it up for natural processes. We want to build some features we know will last well into the future. Next slide would be the goal number 2, energy dissipation. With a variety of features, we're so ambitious. We want to actually raise the bed of the river. We're not going to come out and put a bunch of sand back in it that all move downstream as it's incised. We're going to build features that we over time will raise the bed of the river. Again, with rock, because we know that works, but overall the natural processes will fill in these features and create the longer term channel that, if it creates it itself, will provide good habitat as well as the energy dissipation that we're after with this feature. And there's one more slide on this. Just taking the fight out of the river when it does have monsoonal flows or it doesn't have enough sediment and it's looking for sediment, it's causing harm to the channel as far as the processes that we're looking to. So taking that energy out, we hope this feature that you're actually seeing, the bed control feature, will be like a riffle. If folks are familiar with river terminology, you'll have pools and riffles. So we're hoping the construction of these rock features, and this is long, I can't remember, Jen, how long is this? 90 feet. So it'll be, we're hoping, the bed will stabilize above it, perhaps create a pool at the bottom when you get a little bit erosion or just a little bit deeper area. But this would be a ripple feature, which adds oxygen to the water and is a good habitat feature, as well as fixing the bed and creating those natural processes that we're after. Next slide is sort of summary of the project. So utilizing channel raising, bed control, protecting the bank. I didn't talk about it, but there's some side channels as well. Giving at higher flows, giving the water another path, takes the energy out of the main channel that we're after. So some side channel features, levee protection. We will, at the request of the fire department, make sure when we haul on out of there that there will be a good boat ramp for the fire department to use to launch either the airboat or the kayaks for rescues and different apparatus that they have. And again, we will be back indefinitely to monitor and learn from this and employ what we learn on other projects, or even come back if we need to do anything here that we've learned from. So I think it's just sort of next steps and where we're at with the schedule. We are working through the NEPA process, working through finalizing the design, doing this sort of coordination on design features, and coordinating with both yourselves and your neighbors across the river, the Pueblo Sandia. The NEPA process will really kick in next year when we're looking for public input. So we'll have 2 meetings next summer, public meetings, and about 8 months once we get started, which will hopefully be August of next year. So we'll construct it in the, out of the bird season, from August 25 to April 26, depending on the spring melt runoff, which is happening earlier and earlier, but we hope that'll kind of drive the schedule that we need to get done before we get the snow melt runoff. And if we don't get it done, then we'll have to finish it in 2026 in the fall. So what questions do you have for Ann and Jen Koba?
Mr. Waldman.
Thank you, Mayor. Bottom line, the main concern for people of Corrales and the farmers of Corrales is, will there be more water as a result? We know you can't control what comes out of the sky, but will this reconstruction provide a better flow and perhaps more water for the ditches and farmers in Corrales?
I am trying to find a way to answer that question with
Probably
yes.
no.
The Corrales water is diverted all the way up at Angostura Diversion Dam, which is it's the bottom of San Felipe Pueblo, Algodones. So that's where the Corrales farmers' water will be coming from once the district is able to construct the siphon. Right now, it's coming from pumps, and that's what's severely restricting the amount of water. And one of those, I was at the MRGCD board meeting last night. One of those pumps is down. So I know the district is pushing as hard as they can to get the siphon fixed, because that's the real solution to restoring the water to the Corrales farmer.
And will that result in, I'm just curious about this project, will it have any effect on the amount of water that comes into Corrales?
It will
Ultimately,
not.
no, okay,
Right.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Councilor Burkett.
Just a quick follow-up question to Councilor Waldman's is, it seems like with one of the goals of this being raising the river level, recently we had the pumps turned off because the water levels were too low to pump out of. It seems like at least perhaps temporarily when we were using the pump system, maybe there is some benefit there. Am I stretching to try to think that
Yes.
that may help?
I think we'd have to consider that as we approach construction, but I would be very, I don't want to say surprised, disappointed if the district's not able to get the siphon fixed, because we're talking next year, 2025. So I think they're scheduled to construct a new siphon this year.
I think you would be very optimistic if you expected us to have a siphon
If
by next year.
they are
Um,
not able to keep that schedule and I might ask you for a construction sequencing. Are we going to work downstream to up? Yes, we're going to work downstream to up. So again, we wouldn't be up here till spring of 26 would be when we'd get, if we're able to do it all in 1 year. And if we're still being pessimistic that they haven't fixed the siphon, then it could help. Yes.
We're closely coordinating with the district on their plans and making sure that we're, not going to conflict with their plans and that we're not in their way. We want to make sure they're able to get the siphon built.
Yes, we will communicate with them, but yeah, if it's not fixed by the time we get this project done, it will help raise the bed level for those pumps.
Councilor Miera.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the ongoing problems with money and in our Texas lawsuits and so forth that go on for many years back. Where do you get the money for this, and is this money guaranteed? Both same questions with regards to this. We're not running out of money in the middle of the project, or we have to go back to Congress. That was pretty much the question.
Reclamation's river maintenance program has been very well supported over these decades. New Mexico does a very good job of visiting their delegation each year to make sure we get the funding that we ask for and that reclamation budgets for. So this is an ongoing annual program that has stable funding. It's a matter of prioritization. There's a lot of folks that wished we'd spent more money down in lower reaches to move more water through really challenging areas. And that's where we would say we didn't have enough money to deal with the flows down below MRGCD and sort of the Elephant Butte headwaters area up there. that was beyond our ability to budget for and do big projects down there to keep those areas flowing efficiently. We have been able to keep up with the issues from Velarde on down through Socorro but really the MRGCD area and above. We've been able to stay ahead of issues. We monitor those 260 miles. We monitor every year. We fly the river after any major spring flow, the snow melt runoff. We're out there flying the river, looking at the trouble spots, collecting our cross sections. So we have a really good idea where the issues are. And we get at least $20 million a year to spend to keep this river flowing at low flows and keep it from causing harms at the higher flows to the things we talked about. So we're not concerned about funding.
Good.
Councilman Knight?
Thank you, Mayor. It's kind of disappointing that the MRGCD as well as the Bureau of Reclamation didn't see this coming. I mean, the siphon was built out of wood in 1938. And now all of our farmers are suffering. They had a big project that helped the people down in Socorro. And now their farmers are doing well because of the water. And it just kind of angers me that, it was 1938. I mean, people who own things have to work on them. And I wish this was more of a priority for both MRGCD as well as the Bureau of Reclamation.
Yes, Councilman Murray.
Oh, go ahead.
If I could respond, these projects take quite a bit of time. You have the former state engineer farming here in Corrales. As soon as he became the MRGCD CEO, he started working on the siphon. It was his predecessor that let the siphon get to the state that it got. And quite frankly, it's why we didn't do the River Mile 199 sooner, is because we were told by the previous CEO of MRGCD, if we broke that siphon, we owned it. Bureau of Reclamation does not have responsibility for that siphon. It's 100% MRGCD's responsibility because we transferred O&M to the district. And we would have done that project sooner if we didn't have a CEO telling us that we were going to own that siphon if we broke it. So we put Band-Aids on the river until we had an individual there that we could work with and take risks and get a project ready to build. These projects take a long time to develop. And I can tell you for the last 5 years, MRGCD has been working towards fixing that siphon, but it needed to start sooner than that. But I understand your concerns.
Thank you, Mayor. So I got a couple questions for you. So raising the riverbed, is that going to interfere with rafters and those people who are recreating on the river? Because if you get a low flow, are they going to be scraping any of their boats and so forth over these rocks?
If so, we would come back. That's something we would come back for. We do not anticipate that. We anticipate it to truly be like a riffle. I'm a river rafter myself. So one of the most fun parts about the river is going through those rapids and riffles. And so, no, we do not anticipate it causing a problem for airboats, rafts, paddleboards. We'll have to think about paddleboards because they have the skeg
Yeah.
that comes down, but anything that's on top of the water definitely will not have a problem.
So in the 40-some years I've been here, or 30-some years I've been here, I've noticed that the vegetation islands are growing in the middle of the river. And it seems to me that is steering the river direction, either to one bank or the other. Are you doing anything about those river vegetations? Because it seems to me they're also sucking up water and it's also taking it away from what's being delivered to Texas.
That is a challenge that agencies are struggling with. Those islands provide good fish and bird habitat. To try and remove bird habitat for listed species is a challenge. Are they drinking more water than they're using? There's an argument that the trees provide shade, so you have less evaporation. Does that offset what's been drinking? So I'm saying this is the answer to your question is the science is looking at this right now. There's the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative Program that's been going on for a couple decades in the Middle Valley, the state. Lots of different agencies are part of that. And that's one of the questions that we've asked the managers of that program to work on is what's the role of vegetated islands and bars? So there's the environmental answer to that, and there's the water depletion answer to that, and we care about both. and
Well, I
wanna
understand
fund-
it, but even before the levees were put in, the river used to run wide. I mean, a lot wider than it is now. I mean, it used to probably be over a mile wide. And there was no river vegetation. The river would basically scour these areas, and of course it went over the floodplain and so forth. So, you know, maybe that's a more contemporary thing to look at the, you know, riparian and habitats. You know, is it more of a local thing? I mean,
It is, we're actually advocates, and we've tried to start up a program. We've asked the Nature Conservancy to come in to potentially set up a program. They did miraculous work or in doing up in the Chama watershed, the San Juan Chama Project watershed, with treatments, collecting funding from agencies like the Water Authority here in town. Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Authority paid the Nature Conservancy to treat watershed to prevent forest fires, which could wipe out the whole supply of water to the Albuquerque area through a program they'd set up. And so we'd said, hey, this bosque in the entire bosque is broken. It's aged out. It's going to become a huge problem. Can you take the successes from the San Juan Chama project and come down here and create a program? Because it's exactly what you just said. It's not any one federal agency's jurisdiction. It's not MRGCD's responsibility to do the whole bosque. It's everybody. It's Corrales, it's Albuquerque Open Space, it's Belen, it's Socorro County. If we could get a program where we could all pull together and create a vision for the future of the river, especially with respect to vegetation, and then start systematically doing projects to set the river up, because the cottonwood trees that are dying are becoming a huge problem. And again, takes a long time to set these things up so that you're staying ahead of the issues. We think the time is now to be creating a common vision for what we think the bosque should look like. And it might be different in Corrales versus Socorro County, but let's create that vision, start trying to find funding. So New Mexico has a lot of money right now with the oil and gas revenues. Try and line up that funding and then just attack it from all areas. We really need to pull together and do that.
I know, but it seems like there's not a lot of interagency communication, because you're taking care of the river. Corps of Engineer comes in when it floods. And yet we have also then the MRGCD's business of supplying water for our farmers. And consequently, the interagency miscommunication, or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't allow for coordination. It doesn't seem to allow coordination in thinking about how these waters are delivered, especially to our farmers. Because Councilor Waldman and myself, we attended the Bernalillo meeting with the MRGCD and our farmers. It's not a pretty sight. And the MRGC is, and I want to answer Councilor Knight's question. It's not the MRGC's funded problem, because they didn't have the funding, even the authority to fund these projects until recently. And so consequently, getting the siphon worked on is the priority, but he's running into bureaucratic crap up in Washington from the BIA, just because it's a signature that they need to get. And consequently, Jason Kasuga is working his butt off trying to get this done. And I appreciate though that you're going to come in and try to raise the river, but like you said, the pumps have got to be at a certain level before we can suck water out of the river. And I'm hoping that maybe you guys will get there, but you may beat him. You may beat the siphon project.
We're rooting for them. I will just add, through that collaborative program, Corps, Reclamation, MRGCD, we do talk a fair amount. It's probably more than folks realize. We stay pretty well connected. It's just nobody's mission is the bosque. Nobody really has it in their mission.
Why
So
not?
we all have it. Well, both the Corps and Reclamation are what's called inorganic agencies. Like the BIA is an organic agency. Congress gives money to the BIA to work with tribes, and they don't have a scope of what they can and can't work with tribes. Corps of Engineers and Reclamation are authority-based. We can't do anything unless Congress gives us an authority to do it. So that we talked about the River Maintenance Authority. We couldn't have come out and done any of these things on the river unless Congress wrote the 48 Flood Control Act and told Reclamation this is part of our mission, and they give us money every year to do it. So our mission, both Corps and Reclamation's missions, are limited to what Congress has told us to do, and they haven't given us authorities to manage vegetation on river river sides.
Yeah, because it seemed like to me there was a few years ago, there was a program that they thought they could implement with the springtime runoff where they could flood the river high enough and allow that water to flow over the bank and into the bosque where the cottonwoods are at to regenerate those. So still, is that still thought?
We were building habitat sites, Rio Rancho, just north of Corrales, actually at the start of this project. The state, actually, we funded the state to lower the floodplains. So they came in and lowered the floodplains to an area that would flood it. I think it was 1,500 or 1,500, 3,000 CFS. Spent a lot of money doing that, only to have the river drop 5 feet over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And so that floodplain they constructed was high and dry over the time. So we're evolving our habitat construction projects
So you
away
think
from.
raising the river the way you're talking about will help efficiently?
It's the next thing to try.
Okay.
Because the river going where the way it's going is causing problems.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bill, did you have?
No.
Is that it?
No.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
And you're more than welcome to come back anytime.
Bring water.
We may not have this crowd. But since you live here, we really appreciate this. So now we have board and commission appointments. So we have Jocelyn Scrivener. Oh, I forgot to tell everybody about the doors, the exits. In case there's an emergency and we need to get out, there's 2 more doors, 2 more exits over here. I feel like an airline's, whatever. I started to say, yeah. Anyway. Jocelyn Scrivener, this is a new appointment to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and Jeff Radford, which is a reappointment to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Do I have a motion to, yes, Counselor Knight.
I have a motion to approve both Jocelyn and Jeff.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
And a second? Any further discussion? So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. So before we do the administrator's report, so Melanie, I'm going to compromise. Counselor Knight had a good point. We will go to 2.5 minutes.
Thank you.
Aye.
Right,
I'm
right.
sorry.
And you let it,
My math was a little slow there. I
go back, I
thought
think,
we were at
arrow
an
to
hour,
the
so, okay. So we'll go to 2.5 minutes for the 2.
Sky's resetting our timer right now.
Oh,
Oh.
didn't notice. All right.
Visual time.
And now we'll go on to the administrator's report.
Tanya, you're first up.
Thank you, Mayor, Counselor, Administrator Curry. I'm going to be quick because it looks like you have a huge crowd today, so I'll be very, very quick. And
It's okay.
I lost my notes. Okay. So first thing I want to talk about is advertising is already out for flu shots. I do recommend everyone get your flu shot. However, I'm going to tell you it's still a little bit early. Flu shots we have known for years wane if you get your flu shot in October. If we don't get a flu increase until December, January, February, your flu shot's going to be worn out. So I will start updating on flu activity every council meeting and the mayor's message. So you'll know when we're starting to get flu activity. We're minimal flu activity in New Mexico right now. So just wait on that flu shot. As for COVID, in the United States, COVID is up to 17.6% positivity. Remember, everything that I'm talking about does not include home tests. These are only people who have tested at hospitals, and that is up from 16.4. Emergency department visits have gone up from 2.2% of all cases nationwide to 2.3%. Hospitalizations also have gone up to 3.3% per 3.3 per 100,000 nationally, up from 3.2. And deaths for COVID have increased from 1.4 to 1.5% of all deaths in the United States for the week ending August 12th. New Mexico, we are not slowing down. Our rolling average of cases for 7 days is 177 per 100,000 people. And those are doctor tests. Our positivity in New Mexico is 22.8% right now. So COVID is out there right now. It's very high. Wastewater in 44 states is either high or very high. I really thought we'd be coming down by now, but we're not. Some people think the new driver is the new variant. But one of the big drivers is going to be the new variant, but it's also going to be how long it's been since people have had a booster. And there's still no data on when, or information on when the boosters are going to come out. They're still saying August, September. As soon as I know, that will also be put out. I will wrap it up for tonight and stand for any questions.
Councilor Murray.
I just want to thank Tanya for securing that grant for the bathrooms that are going to.
Absolutely.
So I think job well done.
Job well done.
Thank
And
you.
you're looking for more.
Good, because we need them at the rec center too.
Yes,
Do you want to just give it like, for those in the audience, like a 1 minute, 2 minutes on the bathrooms, please?
I'll be more than happy to. So as you, all of you know, I've been here for 27 years and my kids went to school here and play soccer here and do all that stuff. And for years, people have said we need public bathrooms at the Corrales facilities. We don't have them. We have porta potties. And a grant came up and we decided we were going to apply for them. And I went back into the 2009 comprehensive plan. And guess what? There it was like, we need public bathrooms. I looked at the rec center stuff and it said, you know, facilities, all facilities, we need public bathrooms. So we did get a grant from Trails Plus and we are looking to, we just got awarded it. We haven't got all the paperwork in yet and stuff, but to put bathrooms at the La Entrada Park. And I've been working with Mike and Lynn because I'm the funding person, not the, you know, not the parks person and not the maintenance person, but we're really excited. They will be unisexed. They will be handicap accessible. It'll be a 4-pack. They will be, you know, full toilets, not porta potties. And I'm so excited. I'm really excited for that.
Yes, ma'am. Councilor Knight.
Where are they going to be located at the park?
So our hope is, and you know, we measured it. I went out with Lynn and Mike. We met out there. So you know where you come around the bank and there's where the old mulberry tree used to be, there's that curb before you get to the fence to the playground. We're hoping to be, they'll fit right in there because it's closer to hook it. We want it hooked to the wastewater system. We want to protect our groundwater. There is already infrastructure there for the irrigation, for landscaping around it. It's close to where the water can either come off the park itself or the water can come off the bank building. So that's where we're looking. And we also don't want to impact the park. We don't want to take anything out of the park to make it smaller.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Tanya, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And, well, that's it. That's good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Tanya. Next thing, a little trivial item, but it's important tonight. We have up here, you know, we have a 2-minute and 30-second timer on public comments. And there's a clock up here that the speakers can see as they're speaking, which should help you gauge the timing of your remarks. And then Melanie will ring a bell over there. Doesn't mean you've won anything. It means for you to stop.
Well, it is better than an air horn, I tell you that.
Can I call people down as the next contestant on The Price is Right when I call them to the podium?
But we intend to use the system and improve on it as we go forward because I think many people in this room have testified in front of various bodies and you need to know how much time you've got left because you get up there and you start speaking and then all of a sudden you hear the buzzer go off and you go, I just didn't get that last thought in. So it's over here right now. This is our first night with it. We're going to improve on it, but just be aware of it as you get up to speak. Couple of things I just want to report on because I knew we have a long meeting and I mentioned this earlier on in the year about buildable lots here in Corrales. And just some facts. There have been 16 new home permits issued by the building officials so far in 2024. But there's also another 12 to 18 new lots worth of plats that are imminent at this point. So one of the things that we're seeing and what Lori is seeing in planning and zoning is that folks are discovering that they have a 2-acre or more lot. And they decided that they may want to divide it up and sell it. And so we're experiencing that slowly but surely. There's also a sketch plan that was heard in the spring up in the northwest sector. And there's likely to be 21 new lots created up there. And you could get up as many as maybe I won't say much more than that, but it could go up a little bit more than that until we see how the plats come out. But it's as you drive around Corrales and you see folks who may have lived here for a long time and they have more than 2 acres, and they may decide for whatever reason that they want to divide that property up for either their relatives that want to move into that property or if they want to sell it. But Corrales is still growing very slowly as far as buildable lots. And our building official, now that we have been in place for well over a year, I just want you to keep in mind that that process continues to go on. And you know, we still have re-roofing permits that we look at because of the rains and things like that. But planning and zoning continues to handle all this as it comes in. And of course, when a new house comes in or someone proposes a new home on a new lot, they have to go in front of planning and zoning and make sure that there's a site development. And there's, you know, there's no change in that, but the building continues on. And so I think the point that I want to make, or people should be aware of, is that the village continues to buy as much property as we can. Because we believe, whether it's farm preservation or whether it's open space, the community voted on those 2 items, as you well aware, in the last bond election. And so we've purchased the front portion of the Gonzalez property. We purchased the Anderson property, which is the property north of the bank. We are continually looking at properties that the village can buy for one reason or another to make sure that we have control as much space as we have, as much space as we possibly can control in the village. On the other hand, when you have people who have lived here for a long time and they decide they want to divide up their property, there's not a lot we can do about that, except to make sure that they follow the planning and zoning rules that are set forth by ordinance in this council. So the growth continues. We're still out there at 8,500 people. There's still opportunity for it to grow. And those are just factoids that you need to be aware of. And as we get them in a more precise condition, I'll give them to you as we do, but it's very fluid. But I'm always amazed again that we have people who are Corraleños who are taking their properties, no matter what the acreage, as long as it's over 1 acre, and dividing it up and selling it for whatever reason, which is certainly their right to do. The last thing I want to mention, again, talking about what it takes to be a village, which we are. When I arrived here 5 years ago to live here, I first arrived here in 1967 or so, when my sister lived here on Meadowlark Lane, and I spent a lot of time dwelling around the west side of the lateral over there. But now, when I first arrived here as someone living in the village and being part of the village, and then eventually I arrived here in 2017, but then I started working with the village in 2019, and we had about 40 employees. And now we have 57 employees. And it was curious to me, I'm the newest kid on the block as far as employees that live in the village and work in the village. We have 57 employees, 13 of which live in the village. So we have 44 employees that come into the village every day to help make this a village. And so I just think that's an interesting figure because we had a lot of people, including our 4 top first responders that we have that don't live in the village, but they come in here to this village to help serve the village and make it a better and safer place. And we need to recognize these facts that people come in here as public servants who make this place a better place to live. So just another factoid for you to think about as you go about your business. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Gee, 1967. How old were you back then?
I can't tell you. I was cuter then.
Oh, well, okay. All right, so this next session is the Corleone's Forum. And again, we're gonna go 2.5 minutes because we have quite a few people and we don't want to spend much more than an hour, and that's just a judgment call, just because it gets long. So this section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. So who do you have?
Up first is Taya Davidson. If you'll come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes. Please make sure you talk into the microphone.
Hi, my name's Taya Davidson. My address is 4391 Corrales Road, just across the street. Good evening, Mayor Fahey and village councilors and others. Thank you for your patience tonight and thank you for hearing us and for the extra time. My name is Taya Davidson and I am a lifelong resident, 25 years, of Corrales. I presently live at 4391 Corrales Road. I was compelled to write this petition not in response to any specific matter, but to the cumulative effect of various actions by the village and lack of enforcement of village ordinances, both of which I have personally witnessed negatively impacting residents' quality of life. I wrote this petition to urge the village to resolve present issues for residents before pushing forward items for non-residents. Over this last weekend, I spoke with more than 100 residents that shared concerns unique to where they live in Corrales. In just one short week, we have 263 signatures, 42 of which are employed or own a business in Corrales. We will continue to run this petition as long as relevant items are up for council consideration. The following is the language of the petition. As residents of Corrales, we are deeply concerned to see the erosion of the historic character of our village. Commercial overdevelopment is transforming the very fabric of our community and threatening our cherished rural way of life. The village of Corrales is not a struggling downtown in need of revitalization by NM Main Street, which I acknowledge is not Corrales Main Street. New Mexico Main Street's core objective is downtown revitalization and redevelopment. Its mission is to develop local capacity to engage people, rebuild places, and revitalize economies, resulting in economically thriving downtowns, greater business and employment opportunities, and a higher quality of life. For over 100 years, Corrales has been a quiet village with a rich blend of agriculture, history, and charm, characterized by wide open spaces and a tightly knit community. Arguably, there's no other place like Corrales in New Mexico, a uniquely rural and agricultural haven nestled in a quiet pocket amid the surrounding cities of Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. Yet, under the current administration's blind embrace of NM Main Street's mission, a significant and alarming shift towards becoming just another generic, rebuilt downtown is occurring in Corrales. This is not a local predicament. It is a manifestation of a broader trend that extends beyond Corrales. According to a report by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, communities across the U.S. are grappling with the effects of overdevelopment and the resulting loss of historical authenticity, local uniqueness, and traditional values. We stand against this trend. Our goal is not a complete block to development. We understand growth is a natural progression. However, development must be balanced, thoughtful, preserving the qualities. May I finish? I have 3 sentences left.
Go ahead.
Thank you. We encourage our council to take a balanced approach to development with the goal of preserving the distinctly unique and quiet character of Corrales. By our signatures below, we stand united in urging the Village Council to resist morphing Corrales into an entertainment and hospitality district for non-residents. Do not allow Corrales to become indistinguishable from any other stripped-down, commercially focused downtown at the expense of its priceless historic character and its residents' quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, Penny Mendez. Penny, if you'll come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Penny Mendez.
Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm a concerned citizen too. The woman that spoke before me spoke everything so eloquently. I'm not going to repeat very much. I believe in the quality of life as we have it now, and that we need to consider those people who are living in close proximity to these new businesses that are being opened along Corrales Road. I'm not opposed to music. I was married to a classical guitarist that was one of the more famous performers in Santa Fe for many, many years, and he worked in a lot of different venues. I support that kind of business. But when we have people living in such close proximity to these new businesses, I think we need to consider what we do as far as eliminating noise. I still want to hear the coyotes at night, even though I'm getting harder and harder of hearing all the time. Let's keep our rural atmosphere the same, and let's not make this just a suburb of Albuquerque. Thank you.
Up next is Johnny Martinez. You'll state your name and address for the record. You'll have 2.5 minutes.
Martinez, 200 Rafael Court, Mayor, Council, if I can get this all in. Yesterday, Mr. Curry, when I was traveling north, I saw you walking south on the road and I saw you stumble a little bit. I don't know if you stepped on a rock or something. You may not even remember it, but you did that little thing and I did that when my knee was going out. So I hope you're okay. But that made me think about my dad. My dad's 90 and, you know, he recently broke his femur. And so, Mel, you and I spoke last week and thank you for calling me back. But in our conversation, you asked who goes to bed at 8. My dad does. And I have 2 elderly neighbors here tonight who said they do too, as they do as well. They go to bed and they get to sleep whenever they can. And they have a hard time sleeping. And, you know, they don't live next to the restaurants and the businesses here in Corrales. But I personally know elderly people that do. And, you know, if my dad were here tonight, many of you that know him would say hi to him. He's been so nice to all of you. A lot of you folks know my dad. You'd say hi to him, right? But unfortunately, some of the same folks that would wish him well are some folks that don't care that elderly folks in the village are bothered by the noise. And they don't care about the noise that's generated by some of the local businesses that perhaps is a negative influence on these elderly. Tonight, perhaps there are businesses who purchase there are people here who purchase their business knowing full well what the noise ordinances were. Rather than pursuing a peaceful relationship with the neighbors who've lived in their homes for 50 years, you'll challenge the present noise ordinance because your amplified music is more important. And you lose my respect. Many of the elderly people here in the village voted for you council members and fully trusting that you would not forget them. If you know me, you know that I pray to God that when you're older, that there would be somebody to advocate for you. I love people. I do. I genuinely do. It doesn't matter if you agree with me or not. I care for people. And I hope there'd be people to advocate for you. So if you vote making a noise ordinance more liberal that negatively affects elderly people here tonight, shame on you. Let's take care of elderly people. They've lived here forever. You know, 50 years for me is forever, right? They've lived here for a long time. They were in place before the businesses were here. They were in place before it was a business district. And even though it's a business district, it's supposed to be in keeping with the neighborhood.
Thanks, Johnny. That's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Robb, you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You will have 2.5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Robb and I live at 55 Perea Road. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Jolene and Wayne Mays, who could not be here tonight. So, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jolene Mays. My husband, Wayne Mays, and I have lived here for 52 years at 4813 Corrales Road. We consider ourselves grandparents of the village's noise ordinance, which was established after the village's incorporation. After a long drawn-out battle from 1982 to 1986 over noise enforcement with the famous Territorial House Salon, better known as in the day, the Tea House, finally resulted in a village court decision in December 1986, finding the Tea House guilty of violating the village noise ordinance. But the noise continued. And today, village residents are experiencing ongoing amplified noise from Casa Vieja, a painful reminder of what we experienced those many years ago. We urge you to honor all residents and property owners in our village rights to peaceful enjoyment of their homes and properties during all hours of the day. Make it simple by banning all outside amplified music and sound at all hours of the day and night for the entire village. Keep it peaceful for all residents of our beloved, quiet rural village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Charlene Spiegel. Charlene, if you can come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me? My name is Charlene Spiegel and I live at 89 Sinescu Court, Corrales. Thank you, Mayor Fahey, Mr. Curry, and honored council. Deep breath. As many of you may know, I own and operate Corazon de Corrales B&B. My property is located just a few homes east of what used to be the Corrales Bistro. Often, my guests and I could hear music coming from the bistro, which featured live amplified music. The bands were almost always located inside the bistro, so the suggestion that amplified music be played indoors doesn't solve the noise problem. By the way, my guests always found the music part of the charm of Corrales and never felt it was obtrusive. There's been a lot of talk about Keep Corrales Rural, and some may scoff at the fact that I've only been in Corrales less than 10 years. But I was born in Albuquerque and still have fond memories of visiting relatives here, where my brother and I played in the ditch, catching pollywogs, and swam in the Rio Grande. So I appreciate emotions of others who share similar memories. As a business owner, I'm also a member of Main Street Corrales, who promotes many iconic Corrales events, such as Harvest Fest and the Corrales Garden Tour. I'm proud to be a part of the commercial district, which is a vital part of any community for sustainable revenues. Most business owners are our friends and our neighbors, doing their part to create tax dollars and revenue, without which Corrales couldn't exist. I'm not sure if many of those who are preaching Keep Corrales Rural understand that. Residents who live in the commercial district expect a certain amount of activity, including traffic and noise. But I believe the compromise can be reached. Simply restrict outdoor music in the commercial district to stop at 9 p.m. weekdays, 10 p.m. weekends. For those that find music objectionable, they can at least rely on a time limit. For those who wish to keep Corrales rural, I would remind you that the only thing constant in life is change. But change can be an opportunity to work in the spirit of community and collaboration, to manage those changes that affect us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Schurter. Brad, if you'll come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Sure, yes.
Trace of the sound play, and those are songs.
Okay. All right. So pass this to the kids.
I'm gonna play you a bit of Corrales sounds. And the first sounds you'll hear is a cricket below my window of my office. And then it goes from there. Oh, shoot. I forgot to turn it on.
I can hear it. We can hear it. You heard it?
Uh, There we go. Well, I'll have to play it directly through the microphone, I guess, if I can. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
Well, I'm sorry. Thank you for trying, though.
Sabine Schurter, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's 47 Rincon Road, Sabine Schurter. So anyway, what we have been complaining about is very loud, booming, low frequency music coming from Casa Vieja. It's about 450 away from our house. And, oh, I'm sorry. And all I can say, it's very loud. Too bad we couldn't hear it, but maybe we do it next time. And so, and by the way, we do not hear any amplified music that's played inside of Casa Vieja. So, and we really appreciate those days when they're not playing outside. We're basically in a noise cone, so to speak. It's a portal. The music is basically then emanating towards our house. There's nothing in between, no buildings. There's a wood fence, which is not a noise barrier. And that's why it's so loud at our house. And I would invite any of you that are here any time of the night when there's one of these big nights at Casa Vieja, please come to our house, sit on the patio and listen in and see for yourself, please. So I have to say, I've lived in a lot of places, villages, big cities, and I must say Corrales has been one of the noisiest places I've ever lived. It has been bad for our quality of life. It has been bad for my business. And I think it's also affecting the value of our property. Who wants to live in that kind of a noise scenario? So many folks are gushing over the wonderful and quiet lifestyle of Corrales, but I'm like, well, what do you know? Come to my house. And now we have a noise ordinance proposal to codify this kind of noisy behavior for all entertainment businesses in the commercial district. I truly hope that the council will reconsider that. You know, we have a comprehensive plan coming out. It's not codified yet, it's not passed, but the #1 plan goal is considering Corrales rural values first and foremost when drafting, reviewing, adopting village legislation and taking administration actions. Dear councillors, please consider our rural values, our comprehensive plan, where a lot of people have put input into to decide on a noise.
That's your time. Thank you.
Village ordinance. Thank you.
Dan O'Brien. Dan, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Dan O'Brien, I live in Corrales, I mean, in Albuquerque, and I own Casa Vieja. I want to address the mayor and you council persons about the letter you received from Sabine.
Could you speak into the microphone?
Sorry about that.
You can hold it in your hand if you would like.
Okay. You received a letter on July 13th from Ms. Schurter saying that there was loud bands at Casa Vieja on July 12th and July 13th. In support of that letter, they submitted some more graphs of decibel readings. And the graph was dated 4/7/24. That was a Sunday. It was a day that there was no music at Casa Vieja. And you'll notice in that letter, the dBs, the decibels, it was about an average of 60 on April 7th. And no music playing at Casa Vieja. What that represents is the baseline. That is the ambient level of noise at their home. Now, why would it be that loud? Well, they live in the commercial district. They're not in a residential district. They never tell you that. They live next door to Parejas, next to Swope. And because they live in the business district, they have the noise of Corrales Road, which is louder than any music they hear from Casa Vieja. 60 dBs is the equivalent of low conversation background music. It's not an offensive level of sound. It is no louder than the traffic on Corrales Road. Now they want it to be residential, and Miss Schurter is famous for her complaints about sound. She complains about food trucks with generators as folks. She complains about motorcycle gangs circling Parejas. Of course, that's just 100 feet from her house. She complains about kids playing in the corral at Ex Nova. She complains about sports cars you can hear 3 miles away. And now she wants to do away with Harvest Fest. Why? Well, because Harvest Fest creates traffic down Corrales Road, which is in the business district, which is just a couple 100 feet from their home. So again, the music, and you can, and I agree with Miss Schurter, come on down and on a night and tell me what is louder, the traffic on Corrales or the music you can faintly hear from Casa Vieja. I'll tell you right now, it's the traffic. And one person should not be able to end Harvest Fest. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Up next, and I apologize if I butcher your last name, Ken Freebers. Ken, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Also, try to control your exuberance, please.
I'll try. My name is Ken Freeberg, and I do live in Albuquerque. Born and raised there. I've come to Corrales for 65 years. I've been here over 1,000 times. I have done business in Corrales. I spent money in Corrales. I've provided income to Corrales. So I think that my interest in Corrales should have some validity, maybe as much as some people that have only been here for a few years. The music problem that has been brought up here is not great at all. If you do take her suggestion and go stand by her house on a night like that, the decibels from Casa Vieja, 300 feet to 400 feet away, which they're a little further away than that, comes down to, again, the same amount of noise as two people having a conversation. A quiet residential street, a very quiet house. So if you really want to, you can probably hear on a quiet night a little music from Casa Vieja. That's as long as your neighbors aren't sitting on their porch talking, as long as the coyotes aren't howling, the dogs barking, 10-mile-an-hour wind rustling through the trees, or the cars going down Corrales Boulevard. It is not a problem for people, again, anywhere outside of the commercial district. Another thing is you should be happy and glad that you have a gentleman such as Mr. O'Brien, who's the current caretaker of Casa Vieja. Without him, Casa Vieja would be sitting closed. There's nobody in Corrales wanting to buy that. If you make his business where he cannot keep Casa Vieja going, it's going to deteriorate. If he had not purchased it, the rain would be pouring through the roof like it would be. He fixed that. The sewer wouldn't be working. This meeting might be more about not what we do about the landmark of Casa Vieja, but what do we do about the eyesore of Casa Vieja? And again, in several years, you might have another meeting that it's not about the landmark of Casa Vieja, but we have the hazard of Casa Vieja and how do we tear it down? If you want to lose your landmarks, have people that they cannot keep them going. Thank you.
Thank you.
This next name, I'm not sure if it's Tammy Torres or Jamie Torres. Jaime Torres. Janet, sorry. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. You'll have 2.5 minutes.
My name is Janice Torres. I live at 690 West La Entrada. I am one of the elderly living in the business district. I live walking distance from Casa Vieja. And I have to say that the outdoor music and the camaraderie at Casa Vieja has become one of my absolute favorite things here in Corrales. I love it. I love seeing my neighbors enjoy the fresh air, listening to some really outstanding musicians. And this is all without having to leave my neighborhood. I love it. And at our house, we can hear occasionally the kids at the soccer field. We can hear celebrations at La Entrada Park. And I love that too. If I was bothered by that kind of sound, I wouldn't have a house in the business district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louis Schweppes. But again, if I mispronounced your last name, I apologize. If you could come to the podium and state your name correctly for us and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Louis Schnapper. I also live at 690 West La Entrada. Live music is the heart and soul of any community, and having it accessible and as well done as it is at Casa Vieja is a major element of the quality of life here in the village. I hope that the council can find a way to balance the need for live music, the need for that kind of entertainment, with the protection of the other values of the village. But live music is key to me. Thank you.
Kim Martinez. Kim with an M, I-M. And Kim, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
My name's Kim Martinez, and I live at 674 Paseo de Dulcelina. My husband and I owned 2 properties in Corrales, one for 17 or 18 years now, another for 7 or 8 years. And I love Corrales. I absolutely love Corrales. I've always wanted to live in Corrales from when I very first moved up to Albuquerque from Hobbs. I'm here in favor of the music. I often feel like the time drinking a glass of wine and listening to the live music at Casa Vieja is the highlight of my week, often. My husband had a retirement party at Ex Novo given to him by his partners about a year ago, and the mariachis came and played. And it was just, it's so joyous to hear the music. It just makes people happy. And I feel like there is a place for it in Corrales, and that is the business district. And unfortunately, I hear what they're saying, but I feel like the hours that are specified in the change, the amendment, they're reasonable. And I feel like I want to keep the music going. And just like the Doobie Brothers on the shirt says, let the music play. That's what I'm for.
Thank you.
Ricardo Blanco. If you could come and state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
I'm Ricardo Blanco. I'm a farmer here in Corrales. We're at 4160 Corrales Road. My mother's family's been here since the founding of Corrales. You'd say they built this place up pura pala, as we say. We haven't put our pala down since then. I'm here kind of torn. I'm here to kind of point out a false dichotomy I see before us. One that's kind of a bedroom community, this silent, sleepy little thing that we love here in Corrales. And the other is a need for a little more economic base, especially for us farmers. That's important to have customers. But I am here to speak on behalf of the descendants of Corrales, mostly the founding families, as well as those who were established prior to the incorporation of the village. While I appreciate the talk of stakeholders that has arisen, it's definitely a conversation long overdue. I must point out that we, the descendants that have long been the stakeholders ignored in Corrales, in the long line of ordinances, initiatives, projects, and yes, even celebrations. Ironically, it's almost all instances becoming those most negatively impacted by the very initiatives meant to try to help us, you know. Today, my Corraleños, I would like to point out that we are facing a false dichotomy, a false choice between two choices without considering the overlap between the two, which most often contains a more valuable outcome and which ignores other choices. A choice between yes and no, black and white, without considering the gray area where they overlap. In Corrales, we now face the false dichotomy between a sleepy commuter bedroom community and an economically and culturally vibrant, tourist-driven Main Street community. Our arguments are setting up the classic black versus white false dichotomy here. But for the descendants, Corraleños, both choices present the likely outcome to again become or remain the stakeholders ignored. A long-lived and historically validated feeling in New Mexico of we don't know how it's going to screw us, but it probably will. It also ignores the generations of changes that have come to Corrales amidst protests from those whom originally entered into the social contract and their descendants. There and many of your concerns of traffic density that are being today and noise mirror each other. However, I must point out that the journey to Corrales is a way of life. Excuse me. However, I must point out that the journey to the Corrales, it's a way of life, and Horse Capital New Mexico version of Albuquerque's bedroom community has been absolutely detrimental to Corrales descendants.
Thank you. That's your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Devin Rivera. If you can state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Hi, Council. I'm Devin Rivera. I live at 28 Coralville Road. So I just want to speak on behalf of the Corrales Main Street. At the beginning of the petition we heard earlier, Ms. Davis briefly mentioned that she acknowledges that New Mexico Main Street is different than Corrales Main Street. And then everything she said after that was specifically things New Mexico Main Street is wanting to do. So good news, you guys don't actually have to worry about that petition. Corrales Main Street is not going to do any of that stuff she was talking about. All Corrales Main Street wants to do is protect our farmers, protect our artists, and protect our businesses. And that is the heart of Corrales. I love peace and quiet as much as anybody else. I was born and raised here. My family's been here for 5 generations. I love me some peace and quiet, but artists belong here too. Musicians belong here too. Businesses belong here too. My family drove the buses for the children of this community for 75 years. And we got shut down by APS. They sent their cronies down here to Corrales, and there was nobody there to protect us. There was no Corrales Main Street back then. Gone, 75 years. Because there was nobody to defend us. None of the people who were worried about preserving our history were there to defend my family back then. I know Corrales Main Street would have been, so I just wanted to speak on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred Hashimoto. Fred Hashimoto.
Howdy, I'm Fred Hashimoto. I live at 485 East Strada. In the old days, I used to live on Priestley, just behind the Sears house. I'm a musician, and I in traditional dreads group used to play at a venue outside of Old Town in Albuquerque, and we did great for years. And then our trumpeter and our trombone player decided they wanted to amp up their music. They did. And we were asked to leave because the neighbors complained that the noise was too loud. I sympathize with the neighbors. I think quality of life is important, and we no longer play there. As I said, I lived behind the Sears house, and now it's becoming an event center. And when, about 40, 35 years ago, a counselor wanted to put up a fast food place at the Sears house. And we formed a neighborhood organization and actually opposed that. And fortunately, that did not happen. We were concerned about noise. We were concerned about traffic. We were concerned about lighting. And she was not concerned about us, the counselor, but that's the long story. And fortunately, it's not. Fast food place, but it is going to be an event center, and there might be an event center across the road on Jones property, so that's something to think about. Anyway, I live at East La Entrada now, near the Bosque, and last Saturday night, about 8 o'clock, actually rehearsed some music, so I figured, well, I'm just going to walk down Corrales Road and see what's up. So I walked from La Entrada to Casa Vieja, and the noise was loud. There was traffic noise, but you know, in my cell, the decibel level was like up to 75, 78, which is pretty loud. I can sympathize with the people who live in the neighborhood commercial zone. When I was a counselor, it was a neighborhood commercial zone. It wasn't a commercial zone. It was a neighborhood commercial zone, and I was involved in the zoning ordinance back then. We made it neighborhood commercial because people live there. They've always lived there, and there should be compatibility between the two. So anyway, my hope would be that amplified music is not unlimited, and I hope you all may somehow make an enforceable zoning ordinance. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Tessa
Yes, I'll
Davidson.
keep on talking.
Tessa, if you can state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I'm Tessa Davidson. I've lived at 132 Perea Road, the road located west of Corrales Elementary for 25 years. For those of you who do not know me, I'm a 4th generation New Mexican from a ranching family. I'm also a water law attorney. I work with the defense team for New Mexico in the Texas v. New Mexico case in the U.S. Supreme Court. I've operated the Davidson Law Firm here in Corrales for 20 years. My 2 daughters grew up here and attended Corrales Elementary and Cibola High School, and I was an involved school volunteer and in particular very active with the drama, choir, and arts programs at Cibola. I have been a member of the Farmland Preservation Commission, the Corrales Water and Sewer Committees, and the Biking and Safe Routes to School Committees. I even agreed to give Water Law 101 courses to past village council members. I don't know if anybody ever attended any of my courses. It's safe to say that I love where I live. I've loved being able to operate a profitable business here in Corrales that has supported my family for 20 years and also contributed ghost receipts tax to the Corrales tax base. And on every wall of every room in my home and in my office hangs art, original art by Corrales artists. In 2010, we bought the dilapidated farmhouse on 4206 Corrales Road and restored it when nobody else wanted to touch it. We farmed the back area and the back acre and allowed parking there for village events. When we had to sell it in 2021, I approached Silverleaf Farms in Milagro to see if they'd be interested in purchasing it. I wasn't interested in selling it to the highest bidder, but wanted a business that complemented the character of Corrales. That is now the location of the Corrales Farm Stand.
So why am I here today? I'm here to respond to a comment made at the last village council meeting to the effect that if somebody has a problem with the business owner, they should just sort it out with the business owner. I agree that the first step for us to take normally is to be neighborly. But I also think that that perspective could also be seen as shifting the village's duty to ensure the health and safety of its residents onto the very residents that need its protection. I agree most business owners are our friends, but not all businesses are willing to work with residents. For example, the village is aware that in 2020, our neighborhood tried first to work with the owner of Tasuki Stucco to rectify the impacts on our neighborhood. Those impacts are still occurring 4 years later. I'm here to show my support for the petition and also to offer to work with the village residents and other business owners on solutions that reflect mutual respect and the village's equal application of the law to all. And I just encourage the village council to provide more opportunities for residents and business owners to work together on solutions. Thank you.
Dale Klein. Dale, if you can state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
I won't need 2.5 minutes. I just want to, my name is Dale Klein Kennedy, and I live at 705 Camino Hermosa in Corrales. And I've been a resident of Corrales for 47 years. And I love the music in Corrales. And it is the joy of my life. I look forward to going to Casa Vieja. I want to spend my money in Corrales, and I want to be close to home. And as I get older, being close to home and having things in Corrales becomes more important to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Lance. Mary Lance. If you can state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2.5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mary Lance. I live at 18 Corvo Place, and I've lived there for 32 years. And I am an artist, and I own a business here in Corrales. There are a lot of artists in Corrales, and I think it's fair to say that we all, along with everybody else, value peace, quiet, and serenity to do our work and live our lives. This is much more important than, to me, it's much more important than having more economic development along Corrales Road. I appreciate the businesses that we have, I really do, but I think there are many, and the levels of traffic have really gotten extreme. I also want to say that I think a lot of mistrust was created by the village, by some faction of the village, that organized a group to promote a large, ungainly, and I think really ugly 250-seat theater. We seem to come back from that by the work of the second committee for what's come to be known as the multi-use facility. And the recommendation that if it's built at all, it would fit into the scale and style of the village and have spaces for small groups to meet, not to draw large regional audiences. Then we were presented with a design apparently commissioned by Main Street that included a 20,000 square foot building, and then an 86-page plan for an arts and culture district without, I believe, without adequate time to discuss the ramifications that raises, and it also, I think it raises the distinct possibility of more traffic. We've heard that an arts and culture district would bring grants into the village, which could be a very good thing, but please, let's have some transparency. It should be clear from the survey that was posted, the results of the survey that were posted over in the old gym, that what the people of the village want is peace, quiet, and less traffic. So I wonder sometimes if you're all listening to us, or really just trying to promote development at all costs. So thank you.
Ben Dates. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. If you could please state your name and
My name
address
is
for the
Ben Dates. I've lived in Corrales for 46 years.
I figured that out today. I knew it was somewhere around. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm a writer. And after reading the 88-page blurb by Main Street, I realized that I can actually call myself an artist. Having those two vocations. You know, I think there's a lot of good art. There's a lot of great music in Corrales. We're 20 minutes away from a major metropolis that has every kind of art and every kind of music available. We don't need the designation of an arts district. It's superfluous. I value the contributions that Main Street has made to the village, but I really don't think that an art district is appropriate for our village. But as an artist, I'm concerned mostly about transparency in this village. Transparency, the legal definition, is the government's obligation to share information with citizens that's needed to make informed decisions and hold officials accountable for the conduct of the people's business. And I think this whole process has lacked transparency. So I wrote a poem as an artist. It's called Transparency, a poem of cliches. It's like the elephant in the room, the 500-pound gorilla, a hidden agenda. But let's not ignore the obvious. Take your heads out of the sand. Off with the rose-colored glasses. Wake up and smell the coffee. Because the unspoken issue, the obvious issue, the skeleton in the closet, the unmentionable fact, and the inconvenient truth is something fishy's going on. Perhaps a hidden agenda? Is there an elephant in the room?
Patty Carroll?
That was excellent. That was excellent.
Patty Carroll? Is Patty still here? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Angela Gutierrez. Did you want to speak now or did you want to wait till ACD? Why don't you go ahead?
Good evening, Mayor, Ron, councilors. For this time frame, and my name is Angela Gutierrez. I'm the Executive Director for Corrales Main Street. But at this moment, I'm speaking for Kristen Salazar Kaufman. She's the president of the PTA and asked me to read her message out loud. Dear Mayor, councilors, and community members, I'm writing in strong support of the Corrales Arts and Cultural District Master Plan. My name is Kristen Salazar Kaufman, and I'm the current Corrales Elementary PTA president, parent of a 10, 8, and 2-year-old and Corrales resident. I also grew up in this community in Corrales, and my goal was to raise my family in this community, a deep-rooted community with values of working together, knowing and embracing our sense of place and taking care of our community for many years to come. In my various roles on the Corrales PTA, and most recently serving as president, I've partnered with Corrales Main Street throughout the last 4 years. The opportunities Main Street continues to provide our school community are incredible. Though Main Street partnerships, we have created a guitar program for our new middle school students that we hope to expand school-wide with music in Corrales. We also partnered with them to bring the first ever family-style concert as part of the summer concert series. We held a holiday concert at the Starlight Parade and tree lighting ceremonies for elementary-aged kids to participate in. Main Street has brought us partnerships with the Kiwanis Club, Master Gardeners, and Corrales Society of Artists to bring enriching opportunities like walk and roll, gardening in our school, gardening beds, and young in art, and more. Through Main Street's Intel grant, we provided every student on our campus a book to take home and create a home library and supporting materials as part of our community read program, where the entire school reads one book together, has weekly trivia, and celebrates completing at our Celebration of Children event. We provide older students with essential items to aid through puberty as they transition from kids to teens, gave better access to technology, software, and supplies to help reading with the Scholastic magazine subscriptions and A to Z learning reading subscription, enhancing their vocabulary, keeping them engaged, and instilling the joy of learning. With change always comes reservations, but as a parent of young kids in the village, we are constantly having to drive our kids to summer camps, practices outside of soccer, theaters, etc., away from the village. With a plan like the Corrales Arts and Cultural Center plan, younger generations more opportunity to keep right here in our own vibrant, encompassing community and continue to offer them support and resources to enrich their lives and understanding the meaning of community for many years to come.
Thank you.
Michelle Negretti? Michelle, did you want to talk now or during the ACD? Okay. Okay, then we're going to move to the Zoom participants. I've been told Patty Carroll is on Zoom. Patty, are you there? Don't forget to unmute.
This is Patty Carroll. I live at 230. This is Patty Carroll. I live at 230 Coronado Road. And all I wanted to say quickly was that I appreciate the council and the mayor's support for the Christmas de los Caballos parade and all of the other equestrian events in the village. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, 2 more Zoom participants and then we are done. Kathy Newman, are you on? Don't forget to unmute.
I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Salome Ward, are you on the Zoom?
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Oh, okay. Hi. Hi, my name is Salome Ward and I'm at 204 East Meadowlark Lane. And I just wanted to, I have to say that I guess I was in the dark. I wasn't aware that this noise ordinance was kind of a beef between a specific business and a neighbor. When I first heard of the ordinance, it upset me and I thought it sounded like a terrible idea, because to not have any noise restrictions every day, all day, just seemed to me a very excessive measure. So I'm not sure about all the details. The way I had read it, I thought it was any businesses within the business district and that it deals with amplified music. And if there's no restrictions, it seems that it could just be blaring. You know, I don't think any business would do this, but I just feel like it's too excessive of a measure, and it would also cover or be applied to any future businesses that we don't have yet. And that really brings all kinds of questions to mind, because with all this talk of a new, arts and cultural district and everything else that might happen, it's really yet to be seen what kind of additional businesses might be attracted or might be coming to Corrales. So I just wanted to vote, or to not vote, but to voice my opposition to it, or just say, hopefully there can be a better solution. I live on East Meadowlark, as I said. I'm close. I guess I'm at the very beginning of the business district, but I still feel like even Corrales Road is also a neighborhood, and there are homes there, and it's kind of flippant to just dismiss them and say, oh, we shouldn't be in the business district, because sometimes you don't know who your new neighbors might be or what new businesses might come. So I'm just hoping something better can be done. I guess that's it.
Thank you.
I've been forgotten about, if anybody can hear me.
Oh,
Councilor Murray. Thank you, Mayor. Rick Toller asked me to read his
statement in for the Corleone Forum, if I may.
Sure.
Okay, so he sent me this email on 1st of August, and he wrote, the ACD plan is coming at a time when Corleoneos are very distrustful of village government. The attempt to push the Regional Performing Arts Center through the limited public input is just the most recent example of governmental overreach that has had made many people very angry and suspicious of the mayor and administration. This distrust and suspicion is the source of much of the hostility to the ACD idea. The 84-page document is very impressive and informative about the village, but has many buzzwords and phrases that can be misunderstood or misinterpreted. The single most unfortunate phrase is the reference to make Corrales an arts and cultural and entertainment destination. The plan was also released at the same time that the survey of village properties that show a 20,000 square foot building on the Jones property that looks very much like a larger version of the Performing Arts Center that was rejected some months ago. This casts a shadow on the ACD plan, even though they are not directly connected. I don't know whose idea it was to change the noise ordinance to unleash outdoor music at night with almost no limits, but that couldn't have come at a worse time for acceptance of the ACD. The entertainment destination language is apparently being modified in the ACD, but it looks like the village government is moving ahead with it anyway. If you want to know where the hostility towards the ACD is coming from, look no further. It's absolutely true and was mentioned by one of the supporters of the ACD at the last council meeting that the village will need increased gross receipts in the future when housing is built out. It should be emphasized that the ACD can be customized to the needs of the individual municipality and can be designed to encourage specific kinds of development. In the case of Corrales, it can be used to attract and support more businesses like Sage, Farm Stand, Ideum, Arca, and Heidi's that employ local folks, operate mostly in daytime hours, and don't make noticeable noise or create massive concentrated traffic. If you decide to move forward with the ACD, be sure that your administration and future administrations are publicly bound and committed to using it for the kind of development that Corrales wants, not the kind of development that will damage or destroy the village we love. I urge you to begin by rejecting the changes to the noise ordinance and instead strengthen it to protect the people who live in the commercial zone and are worst affected. So that's it.
My apologies. We do have one more person on Zoom who called and signed up today, Mr. Troy Klum. Can you?
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Troy Klum, 104 Laura Lane in Corrales. Thanks. I thought I was forgotten. I was, anyhow, I don't have anything earth shattering to say, but the statement read last, and the last person on Zoom, I totally agree with them. You know, when you change a noise ordinance and if you give an inch, people take a mile. The noise ordinances that should be in effect now are already being taken advantage of. And so I'm not sure why you want to make it looser. I live, you know, if you looked off to my right, you could see the giant lights of Ex Novo Brewery and the unappealing building to most. And I get mechanical noise all the time, all day, every day. I get different mechanical noises from that place. And yes, I get music noises as well. And I'm hoping that they don't have amplified music because I just might go insane. The lighting is a big issue for me in Corrales. No one's mentioned that yet, I don't believe so much. But when this brewery was built, the village code was at 15 feet. I actually printed out the village code. They built lights that were 23 feet tall and not with no barriers on them. They shine into my house all night until their timer decides to turn them off late at night. Anyhow, night skies is kind of a joke here. Anyone that mentions night skies in Corrales is there's no night skies in Corrales. There's no enforcement. So there you go. That's my disjointed blurb. Good night.
Thank you. I know Zoom actually mutes the applause, but you just got great applause here in the building. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that's everyone.
Okay. We'll move on to Councilors Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the regular business session. Who would like to start? Council Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to inform folks that the Mr. Cog Water Resource Board meeting is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, is both in person and Zoom. We have two presentations, I think, by the Interstate Stream Commission, and if people are interested, which they should be, because Councilor Walden and myself, we attended the Interstate Stream Commission open house. A lot of information. Sometimes I think it was like TMI. It was a little bit too much, but the rules are coming down the road. And then also for the Metropolitan Transportation Board, we're losing our senior member, Steve Montiel. He's leaving, and he'll be announcing that Friday. But at any rate, we have that board meeting will also take place at 10 o'clock Friday morning as well, both Zoom and online.
Councilor Woolman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone who's here tonight and who have submitted letters and emails, both for and against the adoption of the Arts and Cultural District designation. They were thoughtful and reasoned. Several of you suggested that the decision should wait until the comprehensive plan is submitted. Others have suggested that it's the process is being rushed. The overwhelming comments were that the residents love this village. Our goal should be to attempt to reach a balance. There should be no sides here, but rather an attempt to achieve a recognition of what's important to all parties while accepting the realities of the 21st century. The Comprehensive Plan Committee has been working for a year to gauge the sentiments of village residents as we plan for the next 10 years. They're scheduled to present their findings in the next 6 weeks, I believe. It appears that many of the issues raised in discussions regarding the ACD will be addressed by the committee's report. I suggest we postpone any decision on the acceptance of Main Street's recommendations for an ACD until we have a chance to study the recommendations in the comprehensive plan. It may be that we find common ground by blending the findings of both committees without further dividing the community. There's been a lot of mistrust and anger as the administration and council have made many significant decisions in the past 2 years. But these actions have also provided an opportunity for preservation of what we have and listening to many more voices than we have heard in the recent past. Perhaps it's time to take a breath, slow down, and see how all this fits together as we try and preserve what we all love about this village. Thank you.
Dr. Burkett.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to bring up, we've had several issues in the 4 years that I've been serving that have been largely attended. This is probably one of the largest, and it's fantastic to see that everybody is engaged in this process. This engagement comes in a variety of different flavors. Usually it's questions seeking more answers. It's people sharing perspectives that others may not have. It is often people sharing their expertise or facts, usually those facts they believe to be accurate, but not all the flavors of engagement are as community building as what we've seen here tonight. There is also people that are deliberately delivering false information to people. We have people in this village that are harassing and going and talking to people at the growers market and at art stands, asking them where they reside. And most importantly, we have people attacking people personally and their families. And I'm not talking about any of the emails that I've gotten, but other people in this process have been personally attacked. And if you are having an argument about a topic in the village, and that's the tool you have to reach into your bag and grab, you probably need to take a pretty close look at where your facts are. So my recommendation, hopefully for tonight, and tonight's been incredible, and hopefully for the future of this village, is we all remember that we're neighbors, that we have to come up with solutions together. We need to expect the information that we get is going to be factual, and that is somewhat self-limiting, and we're seeing it this week already. Some of this false information that's out there, I'm getting a lot of people asking about it, and they're getting clearer information from other sources and then distrusting the places that they get that information from. But most importantly, we need to be talking to to say stuff, but also to hear stuff from other people. And so we can make long-term decisions for this village without having to resort to personal attacks. So I appreciate the time, and hopefully that's what'll happen the rest of the evening.
Okay. Councilor Knight, did you want to say something?
No, I was just clapping at what he said.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there are a lot of items on the consent agenda, and I think we need to address some of them. Unfortunately, it's probably most of them, and I think we need to just pull them off and tackle them individually.
You would like to take them all individually?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to the council whether they want to do this or not, but I mean, we've got a contract, we've got.
We can pull off what you want to pull off.
Okay.
And you can tell us why you want to pull it off.
Okay.
You want to start with approval of the minutes?
No, basically the ones I want to see are the Main Street Professional Service Agreement.
Okay. What is it? Your question is, let's start with that one. Professional service agreement with Corrales Main Street.
Yes, so one of the things that was brought to my attention is that the amendment procedure in the contract doesn't specify any method for altering tasks. And maybe Mr. Audio could suggest something that maybe gives them an addendum to clarify that method in case there was something between parties that would allow them to alter the task that they've been, that's in their contract.
Mr. Audio. You want to take that?
Did I explain that well enough?
For exactly what you're looking for?
Well, okay, in the contract, it has an amendment procedure. And it's pretty generic. Basically, it just says, that the parties can agree to disagree or come together and do stuff. But one of the things that was brought to my attention was that if they want to change their task procedures within the contract, there's no addendum to allow them to do that. They have to either, I don't know if they have to renegotiate the contract, or is there a way that allows them to do that?
Randy, I think your mic might be off. Can you check?
Here, you can use mine.
Well, if I knew how to turn it on. I should.
There should be a little slider that pushes up.
Is that better?
No.
No.
Yeah, there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So I think the key is whenever you have a contract like this between two parties, it can always be amended with mutual agreement. So if the village or Main Street would come to the other party and say, this isn't working, we need to do this way, the parties have an opportunity to fix it. And I don't think you need to specify that any more specifically.
Okay, when you say parties, does that mean just the administration in Main Street, or does that mean the governing body in Main Street?
Well, generally contracts are administered by the administration. If something comes to the attention of a counselor that they don't think is working right, then they can contact administration and work to see if there's a solution that didn't have to come back for approval. An actual amendment of the contract would come to you anyway.
Okay.
If we change the contract, just like here, you get to approve it or disapprove it, whichever. That's my understanding
Well, I
here.
understand, but it seems like if there is a difference in, say that Main Street says that they want to do a different task that was not in the contract, they come to you, and yet we're the council may be excluded from that because it's between you and the administration.
No, any change would come back here to the council.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, it's a contractual amendment.
Yeah.
But when you say
Does that
party,
mean that you
yeah, but
don't
when
think
you
the
say party,
administration
that's
will
what
bring
I'm
it back
getting.
here for you to evaluate?
No, I'm talking about when it says parties, what's the definition of a party? Is
It's
it the
the village.
administration or the government body?
It's the village, and the village is represented by the administration, but contracts have to be approved by the council.
Okay.
So administration, like usual, would negotiate it. If there's a problem, bring it to you for review and hopefully approval.
Okay, well, anyway, it was just brought to my attention that it might provide some flexibility in the future if there was an addendum to that nature.
Do you want to speak to this or?
Yes, Mayor, on this on this item that Councilor Murray has raised. I was wondering where in the Main Street budget is there allocation for the new assistant director? And at what level? I didn't see anything in there.
Whatever the budget is, that's the budget. However they do the budget.
On that point,
Yes, sir.
because I had similar questions, that's why I said we're gonna get answered. Is there a change in the amount of money that we agreed to last year versus this one? Is there an increase or decrease in the budget?
There's no change. It's $55,000. Isn't that correct, Angela?
Okay, so then go back to.
So then whatever funds they have in the $55,000, that's their budget.
Okay.
They get the benefit of a space, which is valued at,
It's like 2,100
$2,100
something
a
a month. So that does add to the overall, if you added that to the 55,000, it does come in over 80,000. But
we do that in
yeah.
order to satisfy the state Main Street. Because years ago, we didn't want to pay as much as we're paying now. And we tried to do different things to, in-kind services, basically.
No, I'm just concerned that we have a person and I didn't see anything in the budget which allows for that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Are you the budget expert?
I'm not sure. Mayor, Councilors, Jim Kruger. And kind of answer your question, Bill, is that, we have other items in our budget. The new staffing position comes out of the funds that we raise beyond what the contract with the village is. So that's why there's no change in the $55,000 to cover the new position within the Main Street structure. So
it's not coming from the village coffers. It's raised outside of that.
correct.
Okay,
Great.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You had something else?
Yeah, Jim, you got a minute. Then maybe you can answer this because on the, there is volunteer hours that you mentioned in the contract on page 17, I think, or anyway, when it mentions rate, what do you mean by that? It has quarter, it has hours, rate, total, running total. I'm just curious about the rate. Is that the number of volunteers?
Well, Counselor, I think what you're referring to is that, and Angela may have to help me with this, but there's an organization that throughout the country figures what volunteer hours are worth. And that's like $20 or $21 an hour currently. And so we use that applied to the number of volunteer hours that we generate in a year or a quarter to indicate the value of those volunteer hours, try to put some dollars and cents to them. So every year and I'm sorry, I can't tell you what the organization is that creates that number, but they come up with a number as to the value per hour of volunteer hours, whether it's Main Street or the Kiwanis Club or Boy Scouts or whatever it might be.
So it's not an expenditure, it's just an indication.
Yeah,
of-
just an
of the cost.
indication of the value the volunteers bring to the program. of
Okay,
work with Main
so,
Street.
running total somewhere $130,000-$140,000. That's just the estimated value of their volunteer hours.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, Mayor.
Well, just sometimes you need to have that as in kind in order to pay off or to satisfy a grant, for example, a match for a grant. So those in-kind services help. Anything else you wanted to pull off?
Yes, on the event for the Harvest Festival.
Okay,
So I have some heartburn with the hours of which that is going to be going to. Last year, when I looked at the event application, it was from 9 to 5. Saturday for this year, they want to go to 10:30. 9 to 10:30 PM on Saturday and then 9 to 5 on Sunday. Why the sudden increase in the number of hours on Saturday?
Good night.
Now, when I talked to Councilor Burkett, he seemed to think that was because of the bandstand.
Yeah, the hootenanny they do that night.
Yeah.
I think they've always had hours at night.
Yeah.
No. Last year, when I looked at the application, it was 9 to 5 for both days. And I also have a question about the number of vendor tents that they have, which encompass most of the village center for both days. And does that impact our chief our police department, our fire department, and the animal services people from getting in and out of their facilities. Because it talks about 2 days of preparation, setting up things, and then 2 days tearing down. And our police chief and fire chief and or the animal services folks, because all the vendor tables that they got, plus the food trucks, are going to just take up all the parking lot. So how is animal control going to be able to get into their facilities if all that is inside the village center? I mean, there's buku. I mean, there's a lot of vendor tables being planned. It looks like over 100 from what I saw between our parking lot here, over in Lawn Trotter Park, and then also down at the rec center. So I'm really concerned about safety, especially if they have a dance at night up here in the village center. Is the Kiwanis Club sufficiently insured for liability if anything happens, that if somebody gets hurt on village property? And then what's our liability?
Yes. Chief? Chief Vic here.
Yeah, he's there.
Do you think that they are encumbering your space to make it unsafe?
Council Murray, Mayor and Council, so we block off the police section of the parking lot. However, since animal control has moved across the way over by planning and zoning, we would have to make specific arrangements for them to be able to access their office and the kennel building. Yeah.
Yeah, because the animals are, I don't know if we have any animals that will be present during that time, but it's going to stress some of them out if all the noise is going to be created.
Certainly possible. Yeah, as far as the number of vendors, I'm not sure what the increase is from last year, but every year we've, specifically cordoned off the police parking area so that we can get in and out from La Entrada, of course, but for animal control, that's a whole different story. So yes, considerations would have to be made.
Yeah.
My understanding is that there are any dogs that the chief will be taking those dogs home with him for that weekend.
Absolutely.
Well, then this also brings up the point too, then if there's going to be a hootenanny or a dance here at the village center, have they applied for a noise permit to allow amplified music?
It's actually going to be at the rec center. The dance is at the rec center.
What's the stage over here? You want to?
It's a band shell. Yeah, they've had local bands there that have played during the days on that stage, and they've had food tables around there in the past as
Well,
well.
there was no indication of that on the plan when I saw it. When I saw the bandstand, I said, it sounds like they're going to have a dance over here, not at the rec center.
Yeah, it's usually the back soccer fields.
Okay, but even still with the bandstand down at the rec center,
Last year.
have they applied for a noise permit?
That's a good question.
I'm not aware that they've applied for a noise permit.
Well, they've got 21 days to do it, so they've still got time, but they need to do that. So that's some of my concerns is why has Harvest Festival grown to be such a big event? And then how many of these vendor tables do they have are local?
How many? Tony, you want to answer that? That's a yes or no question.
Can you, Tony, can you come up
Tony,
to the
if
microphone?
you can answer that. Chief, thank you very much. How many are local? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that.
Nice shirt.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, Councilor Murray, the Harvest Festival has had a hootenanny on Saturday night every year since I've been involved with the Harvest Festival. That's 2009, and it used to be held right out here. And I understand it had been a tradition for many years before that. So if the application, the event app from last year did not indicate that there was an activity from 7 till 10:30. That's probably my error since I filled out the app, but there's no change between 2024 and at least 2009 and probably a decade or more before that, as far as the Saturday night event goes. And we've never applied for a noise permit. If we need one, I will provide one.
It seems to me that if we're going to allow amplified music, we're going to be violating our own ordinances if we don't allow a noise permit to be submitted.
If you look at section 3 of this application, though, one of the last questions is, will there be amplified sound during the event? And it's under the permit section. So I don't know if that's inclusive of at that point, you're notifying you want a noise ordinance, or if there's a separate form that needs to be
Noise
filled out.
permit, you mean?
Yeah, our permit, but it's in the permit section on here and they checked, yes, there will be amplified sound.
Done.
So that's what I mean. Have they applied for a noise?
Can be done, yes. They can do that.
Well, I know they can do that, but have they?
Well, I'm not aware that they have. In our discussions with them, that hasn't been something they talked about.
Okay.
We have
So-
talked about vendors
Okay,
and where
but
the vendors are.
How many vendors that are the tables that you have set up, how many of them are local?
That's not information I have. There.
Counselor, Sky can get you some numbers on
Do you know how
business
many of the
registrations.
Artists are local.
They're all invited, CSAs invited, so they have the opportunity.
No, that's not the question. How many, because the Harvest Festival seems to be getting away from the indicate what we originally had started with Harvest Festival. It was supposed to be a celebration of agriculture for the farmers in the village. And now it seems like it has branched out more to expand into the art side. I don't have a problem with that, but how many vendors are coming in from outside the village to have tables?
We don't have that number, but we can get that number.
Sky can get you numbers tomorrow of who's submitted
Well,
their.
that's after
their
the fact if
information.
we act on this.
So. Okay, so are you going to talk? Okay, well then go ahead and
So to that point, they're all real Corrales businesses because they had to get a business license from my friend Scott.
Yeah.
They don't all have a business here, but they do their grocery receipts.
Well, I'm just
tax.
curious how many vendor sites are local versus how many are coming in from outside the village?
Okay, once more.
I know.
We don't have that number,
Okay.
but we will get you that number if it is critical.
Then we should postpone the event application.
We can have a vote tonight.
Okay.
Zach, did you want to talk?
I have a question about, I mean, what is the acceptable number? What is the number that you say, okay, that meets my threshold of 50%,
that's-
75%? I mean,
No,
you can't ask a question with a no, then she gives an answer and we just nod or turn our head.
Is the Harvest Festival has gotten away from the original point.
Okay, that is a philosophical, that's a philosophical discussion that we've had for many years. Even when I was market manager in 2005, that was a discussion we had back then. We're not going to solve that tonight. What we need to do is have a motion. And since we haven't done that, we have a motion for the consent agenda, which you pulled two things off. So I need a motion to approve the professional service agreement of Corrales Main
We
Street.
need a formal motion to actually pull those items off. We didn't get a second to remove
We need
those
a
items.
motion
Pull anything off.
to pull off the professional service agreement with Corrales Main Street in a second. And you're basically making that motion
I
because you
think
pulled it off.
To pull everything off consent agenda to discuss everything.
I need a second, please.
Second to that one, because
We
we
have a
already did it.
second.
Well, that's to pull everything off though?
No,
No, that's just that
that's,
one.
that's the Corrales Main Street. All right. So now we will vote on that discussion since we have completed that. How do you vote, Counselor Miera?
So what are we voting for?
We're voting on the professional service agreement with Corrales Main
Wait,
Street.
we need to vote on pulling off the item.
And then we.
That's what we're voting on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Just to clarify for council.
We're not voting on that. We're voting to take it off.
The answer is yes.
Counselor Woolman.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
No.
Counselor Burkett.
Sure, because we've already had the
Counselor
discussion.
Murray. Okay, so it has been taken off. Now, since we've already had the discussion, I need a motion to approve the service agreement with Corrales Main Street.
I so move.
And second,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Knight?
Yes.
Counselor Woolman?
Yes.
Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's done. Now I need to have a motion to pull off event application for the Corrales Harvest Festival, which basically you have done. So I need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deal with the Harvest Festival. How do you vote, Counselor Miera?
Yes.
Counselor Woolman?
Yes.
Counselor Knight?
No.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Murray?
No.
Okay, so we have 3-2 that we're going to pull this. We're going to approve taking this off the consent agenda. Now,
You voted no on your own motion.
I thought we already did that.
no, you made the motion and it was second. Now we're voting that, listen,
All right,
this is what is so confusing about
I
this.
know. Okay, I would change my vote to yes.
Okay, it's 4-1.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to vote as to whether or not we're going to approve the Harvest Festival event application. How do you vote, Councilor
Wait,
Murray?
we need a motion.
Any motion?
Motion
Need
to
a
approve.
motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
No.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Knight?
Yes.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now on the original motion to approve the consent agenda, which we did,
Yes.
how do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Knight?
Yes.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Oh, gosh, thank you. We're through that. So the service agreement has been approved, Angela. And the Harvest Festival has been approved. Tony, wherever you may be. Oh, there you are. All right, so now we're going to move on to, oh boy, another one. Consideration action approval of resolution 24-57 approving Corrales Main Street's Arts and Cultural District Cultural Economic Development Plan. I need a motion to approve resolution 24-57.
Mayor.
And I need a second.
Motion to approve.
So we have a motion to approve in a second. And now we will have discussion. Melanie,
Who seconded?
Burkett.
Okay, wait, I thought Burkett made the motion.
No, that was Murray.
No.
No. He had a question.
I had.
You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? You know, I feel like that guy, remember the guy in the Pink Panther? What was his name?
Motion, Mayor.
You what?
I was gonna make a different motion, but I got outvoted.
You get out motioned?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve resolution 24-57. Do I have a second? Okay, no second. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I move that we postpone item number 1, resolution 24-57 to a date 60 days from this date.
60 days.
60 days. That will give us time for the comprehensive. plan.
6-0.
Yes, that should give us time for the.
We need to
comprehensive-
give a specific
You
date.
need a date certain.
All right, November, whenever.
I don't think we can discuss this till we have a
Hang on, let me see what our,
No, his part of his motion. We have to have a motion to
Okay.
postpone to a date certain.
Okay.
And then you can second
so
and we can
Well,
discuss
here's a
it.
question.
Second that one so we can have the discussion.
Yes,
Do we
60
know
days
when
would
the
be in
comprehensive
October.
Plan might be presented to
no.
us.
we have an estimate about 6 weeks, but that's been
8 or
changing
I know.
about every 6 or 8 weeks.
8 or 22nd are the two.
So I'm wondering if this 60 days would
The-
cover.
Mayor, October 22nd.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion to approve the date certain of October 22nd and a second. Discussion. Oh, we have many people to discuss. Counselor Murray?
Well, okay, so here's my big problem. I want to see the comprehensive plan. I want to see the synergy between this plan and the comprehensive plan and make sure that there are no conflicts that are proposed. I think that we need to listen to the folks, and from the comprehensive plan, we'll get an idea of where this is going to go. But right now, I was overwhelmed this weekend with all the material that I got in my packet, including the 80-page ACD. It's like reading a small novel, trying to read that in 3-4 days. I'm not a speed reader, and it's hard to comprehend things sometimes. I like to look at the ACD a little bit more in depth because there's an awful lot of buzzwords, like somebody said. And I want to make sure that when I make a decision about the ACD, I'm on solid footing where at least where I understand.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Counselor Mira?
I seconded that motion because of the fact he had his reasons, I had mine, but all my questions had to do with regards to the comprehensive plan, starting off, and I don't have to do them now because that's what we'll be discussing later. And that's why I seconded. But I think it's important that we have the difference between the comprehensive plan, the ACD. As such, I came to the village office earlier this week, or the last day or so, and wanting to have the also that we would have the director of the planning and zoning also be at this meeting, because I think this is really important. If we're looking at the Arts and Cultural District, and I'm not going to discuss it, but the fact of the matter is, all this has to go, whatever's in the cultural plan isn't automatically happening. You have to listen to it, but it has to follow our rules and regulations. And I had concerns with page 36 and would ask that question as to exactly what do they mean by that particular line on page 36. But that all has to do with the comp plan, and I really would like to have that comp plan because one of them has to have precedence over the other one. We can't have them both operating simultaneously unless they're simultaneously put together. Otherwise, we're going to have one saying we want to do one and want to do the other. So it's because of that, I think we have to have the comprehensive plan in front of us to be able to have that decision making. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councilor Burkett.
Yeah, I would like to travel back to 2021 when we were addressing Chapter 18 changes. And we were working on the comprehensive plan and we expected it to be done before we were done with Chapter 18 changes. And I suggested at that moment in time that we stall Chapter 18 progress to wait for a comprehensive plan 2.5 years ago. I don't know, and I know the new comprehensive plan group is working much quicker than we were getting progress with Mr. Cock, but I think we're chasing a moving target here. And I just don't think that, I mean, really, the ACD doesn't have any teeth. The comprehensive plan clearly overrules the ACD once it comes into place. The ACD is a flag that we're going to wave to say we are serious about arts. We're serious about heritage. We're serious about culture. Give some of our artists, give some of our farmers, give some of the cultural properties here grants, monies, increased tax credits. It doesn't force us to do anything. It's in no way would be in any sort of conflict with the comprehensive plan.
Councilor Knight. Hold your applause till the end, okay? Councilor Knight.
So I think we need to wait on the comprehensive plan as well, because I know they've been diligently working on this for a year. And I think their big issue is, I hope that the council and the village administration will read this and not just put it on a shelf, but implement things. And but I want to, I guess things that I have received this past week about the ACD, it's a little discouraging to me because people keep talking about having a building built and having a movie theater and having Disneyland. And it's like, what are you talking about? You know, it's a designation so we can get monies from the state. It doesn't have to have a building. We've already discussed that as a council, that did not go. The multi-use facility was dropped because there's no money behind it and people didn't want it. So we hear you, and this isn't about a new building that people want to put up. And if somebody's spreading that rumor, it's wrong. Again, the ICIP plan that we put up to the state, it was like the 25th.
Okay, let me just say this. We're supposed to be discussing the Arts and Cultural District. We're getting now off into areas that aren't even part of that.
You're right.
So perhaps if we could keep ourselves on focus, you know, then other people would. Councilor Murray, Angela Gutierrez has been trying to speak.
I've got a letter from Councilor Alsobrook that he wanted read into the minutes since he couldn't be here. I mean, I can wait till Angela.
No, you can read it. Go ahead.
All right. So Councilor Alsobrook asked me to read this. It says, to the village council, mayor, and Corralinos, we have heard from proponents of the ACD, and we have heard from many Corralinos who see flaws. As a council, we must accommodate both points of view. This issue should not continue to divide our community. The ACD plan is claiming to be a roadmap, but it is not. It is a collection of wishes and ideas and does not lay out any real path forward. This is due mostly to its large and unwieldy scope. In order to make the ACD plan a useful document for governance, it must be synced up and be subservient to our comprehensive plan of development, which has not been yet completed. The ACD should be reviewed and rewritten after the comprehensive plan of development is in place. There is no room for conflict between these documents, and the comprehensive plan takes precedence. Further, the drivers of this proposed community transformation, page 9, are not clearly defined. Where is the gap analysis that shows what Corrales lacks? Where is the gap analysis that shows what Corrales lacks? We are the third richest municipality in New Mexico and municipalities with at least 5,000 residents. Why do we need economic revitalization? Without that analysis, this plan is just a means to obtain grant monies without a firm foundation of how, why, and where to spend the money. Again, this is not a true plan in its current state, and it reflects the worst approach in governance and stewardship. Make no mistake, the purpose of the ACD is to fundamentally transform our community. Approval / adoption / acceptance of the ACD plan should be denied at this time. It needs a reduction in scope and a refinement of its purposes and goals. As currently written, it is long on dreams and short on planning. And this is Councilor Alsabrook. Thank you.
Melanie, who do you have to speak from the audience besides Angela, who's raising her hand?
We have 22 people signed up to speak to this.
Okay,
item.
so we're going to do 2.5 minutes again.
I mean, well, we're voting on dropping this from the agenda, correct? At this, or postponing?
They have every right to speak.
Well, I think the governing body can go either direction. If there's going to be no action tonight, they will have an opportunity to speak at the time that it's on the agenda for action. If you choose to hear them tonight, since they're all here, that you can do that as well.
And they've all invested 2.5 hours plus countless other hours of time on the project.
I think we should listen to them.
Yep.
So does someone want to call the question?
I
Yes.
move we,
Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
To vote on my proposed delay?
A date certain of October 22nd.
Yes.
Councilor Burkett,
No.
Councilor Knight,
yes.
Councilor Woolman,
Yes.
Councilor Mira.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll reconsider the ACD on resolution 2457, approving the Corrales Main Street Arts and Cultural District Cultural Economic Development Plan on October 22nd. Now we'll have a discussion of the La Entrada Traffic Management Speed Study Report prepared by Lee Engineering.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can we have a 5-minute break
Sure. Well,
or
can
whatever?
we have it after Lee or you want to do it before?
And are we letting them, the people who want to speak?
No, because it's gone.
Yeah.
We took it off.
I think Mr. Audio said we could still let them speak if we were so inclined. I mean,
We called the question, Stuart.
Yes.
And I asked about it, so we're going to vote. We did vote, and now it's over. We're going to move on to the traffic management plan. We'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, everybody get seated.
Well, anyway, maybe, well, anyway, well, okay, thanks, Tony.
Everyone, please get seated. Counselors, come back in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we need to call this meeting to order, please.
Well. What's up?
We didn't get to do where are we lacking?
yeah, the
Councilor Councilor Knight, Councilor Woolman.
And a lot of.
Going to do the same thing.
That's right. We got 2 more in the restroom. Yeah, 1 more. The women's restroom lineman is always longer.
Are we ready? Okay, Councilor Miera, Mr. McClernand.
What else we got? Noise ordinance still? Everybody's leaving.
Traffic.
What happened? Okay, are we ready to talk about the La Entrada Traffic Management Study? Done by-
Can we have members of the public exit out to the outside of the building if they're going to continue chatting, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to close that door. Oh, okay.
Agreed. I think that we just emboldened a bunch of very bad behavior from people in the village. That they now are for lying to people, for belittling people personally, and they just.
Thank you to our Zoom
Is
participants
Jonathan-
for
is
your,
Jonathan Cruz here
I believe he was on
He
here. Let me
was?
see if he is still on.
on Zoom?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Jonathan Cruz is on.
Okay. All right, so counselors.
Right.
Who we lacking? Oh, there she is. All right. We'll move on to number 2, discussion of law and traffic management speed study report prepared by Lee Engineering. Mr. Cruz, are you on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. So has everyone had an opportunity to look that over
Yes.
and look at their but the final results that they came up with?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just, for the record, where's the La Entrada people? Because we talk so much. about-
Counselor, can you please speak into your microphone so Jonathan
I
can hear
just
you?
wondering, where are the La Entrada people? I thought these big roads.
Not for me to worry about.
I understand that.
Yeah, if
but
they
the
don't
reason
wanna say, then
I'm
they-
saying that to say this, because the way I understood reading it, you had to meet every one of those requirements, and we didn't meet any of them, right?
Mr. Cruz?
The way these reports typically work is we evaluate the road based on some sets of criteria. In this particular case, they did not all have to be met as a whole. Rather, each set is treated individually to evaluate the road. But you're correct, none of the 9 were met.
So the consensus of that would be, would be that we don't have to do anything about it other than what we're doing already.
That would be true.
Okay.
On that point, if I,
Go ahead.
just one more question. Thank you, sir, for the answer. Can you, at this point in time, being 9 o'clock at night and the question being where it is, any suggestions based on what you've seen, what we wanted and asked you to do? Any suggestions for us as a community, as a village, to what we could do next, or move next to the next move?
Yeah, absolutely. When we do studies like this, one of the things we find almost time after time is most of the, what we'll call like nuisance speeders, are the people that live on the street or within the town. Especially in this case, Corrales, it's not a cut through community, right? Where there's lots of places to go everywhere, right? This is a residential street. So in terms of recommendations, I think the village is on the right track. The best thing you can do is meet with your residents, inform of the dangers of speeding. It sounds like the village is already doing that in a manner, and make sure that folks are aware of the speed limit. We didn't really find that to be an issue here just because there were speed limit signs. But it basically comes down to education and enforcement, short of physical mitigations like speed humps and speed cushions.
Yes, sir, Council Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. Within the report, you talked about our right of way going from X number of feet to 0. And my concern is, how much did you base your report on safety of pedestrians and equestrians within that area, especially down where your right of way gets to be nothing? And I can't, I don't really appreciate it just being speed on the road. It has to encompass all the equestrian, pedestrian, and bicyclists that use that facility. And I'm a little concerned that sometimes when I was looking at your references, they were a little out of date. Some of them are over 20 years old. And I know that the highway department has, and the Federal Highway Administration has updated their criteria. And they're getting away from this 85% percentile as for the speed limit. So have you looked at the safe streets that the Albuquerque's doing? I mean, within their neighborhoods? I mean, it seems to me that there are things we could do on that road to make it safer and better for our pedestrians, equestrians, and bicyclists.
Sure, and that's an interesting point you bring up. I have a few thoughts I'm trying to put together here. In this case, the focus was just on the roadway itself. We didn't go out and count pedestrians and equestrians. Typically, they are walking alongside the road, but the speeding, of course, and the danger inherently with the speeding is the vehicles. The Federal Highway Administration typically leaves these matters up to local jurisdictions to decide their own traffic calming policies, which is probably why a lot of the references might seem a little old. In this case, we reviewed the City of Albuquerque's policy, and applied it. That's where the 9 threshold sets came from. We found it useful because it was a comparison not of just total volume, but the volume of speeding vehicles compared to the volume of the road. So looking at that, those 9 threshold sets and the kind of the closest neighbor, if you will, is what we use to analyze the speeds.
So did you ever look at similar sized communities? Say, you know, any communities that were in the 8 to 10,000 range, that are in semi-rural conditions. Did you look at anything like that in terms of your references?
Not in great depth. Most communities like this just don't have policies, traffic calming policies. The larger jurisdictions that do are applying them, you know, citywide on thousands of streets, right? Here in this case, 8 to 10,000 population communities, they're just not found.
So you are aware that the state is probably the worst state in the nation for pedestrian fatalities. So that's why I was a little concerned that we didn't look at pedestrian, equestrian, and bicyclists and just the roadway itself. That seems like to me that's what the main focus. Some of the criticisms that we received is based on people speeding, true, but at the same time, you've also got pedestrians and everybody else using the right of way and the roadway to get to from either Loma Larga down to Corrales Road. So I'm concerned that maybe we didn't get enough oversight in those areas.
Yeah, if I might add to that, we did review crash data, more specifically, crashes related to speeding. If you look on page 6 of 9, there's a table of all the crashes that we were able to find a report for along the road. We reviewed them for speed as a contributing factor, whether a pedestrian or bicyclist was involved, whether it was in the school zone. Of course, that was a no for this whole street. And then whether or not that crash is correctable with traffic calming. There ended up being one that we found was correctable. However, the vehicles were not actually traveling on La Entrada. They were traveling north on Corrales Road at the intersection of La Entrada.
Councilor Knight?
I just want to say that the information that this company gave us is pretty much the information that we had from our own study.
Yes.
And we spent a whole lot of money. Sorry, dude, whoever's on the Zoom, that we got the same information. I mean, we can put up more signs. We can do things to do, you know, calming on that road. But, you know, I travel that road a lot. That's pretty much, I'm on that road every day. And I've never seen anybody speed past a horse or a cyclist or a mom walking with her little baby. So you know what? We asked this company to find out information. They gave it to us, and let's take it. You know, and again, he does give us suggestions about what we can do to continue safety measures, which is fine. You know, we can put up flashing lights or, you know, put 25 on the road, but let's put this to rest already.
Well, didn't Michael order some signs that we were going to mount on columns?
I believe he was working on quotes.
Yeah.
And we'll have those.
We have a
ordered.
budget for that.
Yeah.
As I recall, I think Councilor Murray put that 30,000 or 60,000.
Right. Yeah. Michael's working on it.
Yeah. Okay. So we will have some, you know, signage that will hopefully, you know, influence people in their driving habits. Councilor Wilbur.
Mayor, we talked in the past, and I don't know if Michael's online or not. You may know about the painting of the roads, the striping.
It's an ongoing thing. Yes, he's doing it.
Okay, so that's another way to try to.
Also,
I'm sorry.
if I may, Mayor, Michael had put in a grant application to NMDOT to get all of our roads striped, and it was denied.
Oh, good.
Tonight?
It was denied. So,
He has been working on striping
yes,
with the
yes,
funds that he has.
he is still working on
But
that.
we
yeah.
tried to get more funds.
Right.
And they didn't think we needed it, I guess.
Right.
Or we weren't as deserving as, we're one of the wealthier communities, and so we should be able to pay for ourselves, I guess. They didn't tell me.
Always better other people's money. Always better using other people's money.
I agree. I agree completely. Anyone else have any other comments they want? Yes, sir.
Just revolving the same old thing, but yeah, it bothers me that, yeah, I'm sure.
Don't
the
forget your
company did right-
microphone.
the company did a good job. The threshold over a 24-hour period, 15% of the vehicles traveling the study are exceeding over 7 miles per hour. That's not what we heard, but that's what they're saying. So, I mean, we're to that point where we've been listening to the people say, oh, they're constantly speeding up there. Less than 15% is a significant number. So therefore, I'm at a loss as to what else can we do. We can listen to our constituents, but the numbers aren't adding up there. So thank you.
Sure. Okay, moving on. Consideration action approval of ordinance 24-11, Clean Water State Revolving Fund Amendment. And this is related to the preliminary engineering report and the $8,000 we
Correct.
got. Okay. So it's basically, we had to adjust the money because they wanted too much. We got them down. They only wanted another $8,000. And so this gives us, yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
You mean I said all that and I didn't have to?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
We read the notes.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right, it's a resolution. Counselor Murray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett,
Aye.
Counselor Knight,
Aye.
Counselor Woolman.
Aye.
Counselor Meara.
Yes, sir.
All five. Okay. All right, consideration action approval of resolution 24-58 directing the publication of a notice of meeting and intent to consider adoption of ordinance 24-12, which is an ordinance providing for the rezoning of Lot 1, Juan Gonzalez Bass subdivision, also known as the Hector Gonzalez property.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Meara?
Yes, sir.
Number 5, consideration action approval resolution 24-59 directing the publication of a notice of a meeting and intent to consider adoption of ordinance 24-13, an ordinance providing for the rezoning of Lot A, Wells Fargo Corporate Property Group subdivision, also known as the old bank building.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All right. Any discussion? Counselor Meara?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Okay. Consideration, okay, number 6, consideration action approval of resolution 24-60 directing the publication of a notice of meeting and intent to consider adoption of ordinance 24-14, which is an ordinance amending the ordinance 24-09 and the definition of engaging in business. Now, perhaps, Mr. Audio, were you involved in this?
A little bit. So essentially, this was the clause that we had previously that was dealing with remote businesses that were doing online business. We had taken language from the state that did not fit our circumstances. This cleaned it up substantially and I think accurately articulates who we will be looking at as having to register as a business.
Having said that, motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? How do you vote, Counselor Meara?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Discussion of possible changes to ordinance 18-48 variance procedures. This is a discussion item. Don't need a motion, don't need a vote. We were somewhat taken aback when someone tried to get a non-conforming lot passed. They were able to get it through planning and zoning, and of course, we brought it back here for the council to once again say 1 acre, 1 lot, 1 house, basically. And that's what we're going to try to do in this ordinance. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and it's good to keep in mind, what variances are in the code for is to deal with situations that are usually physically different than other lots. their lots are differentiated because of their shape, because of their topography and things like that. And you vary things like setback to fix the abnormality in that lot. It isn't intended to say we can now have smaller than 1 acre lots. That's not normally a variance. And just like we don't have variances as to use, you can't go in and ask, I want a commercial use on a variance. Not allowed. So I think it makes sense to regulate and specifically say you can't get a variance as to lot size, minimum lot size.
And I believe Lori's on Zoom if anyone has a question for her.
Yeah, we don't want this to
Yes.
happen.
Right.
Agree.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm against it.
Okay. Well, it was for discussion only, just so we could put together a change in the ordinance. I think Lori's already working on it.
Yeah, it was in the packet, what she had recommended. So if council doesn't have
Oh, yeah,
any,
I saw the language that she suggested.
yeah, so if
Yeah.
council doesn't have any further suggestions, we'll bring it next meeting,
Okay.
either publish and post to
So-
get that.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we have that description? That you just, the definition of variance in that document? Because to me, when I was, during that process the last time, to me, a variance is like, if we can't give a variance to the size, which was 2 feet different, then why do we have variances? But again, the way you defined it, and if it's defined in our ordinances that way, then there wouldn't be any question.
I'll work with Lori. I think the ordinance probably calls it out enough, but
Yeah.
What happens is an applicant comes in. We can't prevent someone from asking for a variance, even when it has nothing to do with what the variance language says. So they can get very confusing, but we can see if we can clean it up a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to discussion among council members of possible changes to the village noise ordinance. Who wants to start? Okay, Councilor Murray.
Okay, so you're the number 10 that was listed on page, I think it's 223. I think it's a non-starter. That should not be in there at all. Because there's got to be limits. And what I was proposing,
Please.
He's on page 3 of 4.
yeah,
So, or page 223.
yeah, page.
So the reason there's a time there is that we need to give the police officers something concrete, something black and white. Now you can pick a different time. That was just an arbitrary time that was picked. 9 o'clock, Sunday through Thursday, 10 o'clock, Friday, Saturday. I mean, that's arbitrary. We can change that.
Yeah.
The other thing we have to change is noise resulting from usual construction repairs and maintenance that would be outside. And here it says it be exempt from 7 until 10 PM. And we think that's too long. We think it should be 7 to 7.
Mhm.
Because there's no reason someone's going to be out there doing, noisy construction work at 10 o'clock at night, or they shouldn't be. We think that it's reasonable for them to stop at 7.
Okay.
That's item 8.
So
on
that
the
was on
previous
page 2 of 4,
Yeah.
number 8.
All right, so anyway, what I proposed was that I found this at the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it has to be, I got from the chief that he's against doing any kind of metering, which means in the objective. And I also got a feeling from our attorney that the way the ordinance is written right now, that it won't stand up in court.
No, it hasn't.
Okay, and I'm sure most of the people that have left, they wouldn't understand that anyway, but what I found was, I thought that the city of Atlanta had done their due diligence and probably had, been sued or whatever, and this language had been thoroughly vetted. Now, this is just a cut and paste out of the city of Atlanta's stuff. And it defines the times. It also defines, what is allowed and what's not. And I thought it might be a compromise for the commercial area. And it spells out distances. It also spells out time. And it is subjective. There's no doubt about it. And I figure that's the only way we're going to get anything done.
It won't stand up in court.
Well,
I'm sure it probably depends on the specific judge and how they view it, but in our court, judgment, if you want to call it that, and you got to have something, she wants something firm.
if the chief is not going to be objective and have meters where the meters can actually read the decibel levels, if he doesn't like that and he's not going to enforce it, what else do we have? It's
Well,
objective.
I'm not an attorney, and I can't tell you all the arguments they come up with about these decibel meters.
Well, I mean, I understand. Phones, forget that. That's not an acceptable device. What would have to happen is the police department would have to have calibrated meters. The officers would have to be trained to use them. And when they get called out, then they would have to take a reading. And if it exceeded the reading of what was allowed, then the person or so would be fine. But the chief seems unwilling to do that.
Well, I'm kind of unwilling too also.
Let me clarify though, Counselor, it's not really the chief unwilling. It's when these have been used. I represented the city of Albuquerque noise enforcement folks for many years. It is extremely hard to get a judge to take decibel readings because what invariably happens is a business hires their own expert and you get 2 decibel readings that are different, and it is incredibly difficult to manage noise from a decibel perspective with meters. It just is. As someone said at the last meeting when we were talking about noise is very subjective. It's different in different places. Closer, it might not be as loud as it is a little farther away here. So it's just hard. It's not that people don't want to do it. It's just that decibel meters aren't a silver bullet.
Yeah, but you can't allow amplification within a commercial area, unlimited amplification.
It's not unlimited.
It is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Counselor Knight.
I was just gonna say, I think the time restrictions, maybe we can push them back a little bit.
Sure.
Pick
Pick a
why not
time.
do that? And then have big time fines if they go over over the time limit. I mean, I think that would, somebody came up to me and said, well, this one place, the audience went up and started playing the guitar after the band got finished. And I was like, well, what time was it? And so I think if there's a limit on the time, and then there's a huge fine if they go over their time, I think that would be one way to decrease it. So,
Do you have a suggestion of a time?
well, again, I think a reasonable time for me would be like 9:30 on the weekends, push it back a half an hour, and 8:30 on the weekdays.
Sounds great. Write that down, Melanie.
I know it's late, Mr. Mayor, but I really have. a
Go ahead.
question. You specifically said it's not unlimited, but so maybe you can help.
No, it's in the commercial core. It's only in the commercial core. It's
I
not
understand.
all over the village.
Oh,
So
of
it's
course,
not,
well,
it's not unlimited.
Unlimited in the commercial core.
Correct. If you have a band.
Okay,
But
so.
How many bands are in the
that-
commercial
that's-
core?
That's fine. I'm in the,
The more coming.
well, I thought isn't, anybody in the commercial core could put a band in the front?
Well, think about it. How many places actually have a band? Ex Novo occasionally will have a DJ. They may have a band every once. I don't know, because I can't hear them. I
Okay,
mean,
now I'm really confused, but that's okay. The attorney's gonna give me a hand on that one.
Let me help a little bit. One of the things I suggested, it worked very well in Bernalillo County. And that is, if you put any new businesses using that have outside entertainment as conditional uses, then you can put limits on them in the land use process, and you can require sound barriers and limit how they produce that music. So if you make it a land use solution for future businesses, it doesn't address who's there now, but we still have to solve that.
Yeah.
But for future uses, it really does make it easier to control those.
Yeah, but
and it has to be enforceable. We have to figure out a way that our officers can go out there
And you were
and
getting
enforce
there,
it.
that's come, I just want to get that part there, make sure that I'm understanding this one right. I'm on line, number 10, line 2. Within the commercial zone shall only be exempted from, so commercial, they will be exempted automatically, only be exempted. That's where I was trying to get a reading from the attorney. What does that mean? Only be exempted?
Well, you can't be over here on, geez, what, Loma Larga and Meadowlark, corner of those, and have a big band playing, because they're not in the commercial core.
But when they do, there's no exemptions to it.
If they're in the commercial core, they have an exemption from.
That's, I think, because of the way you're saying it, that's why I'm asking the question over and over. People are interpreting it as like unlimited.
No, it's not.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Well, if they would read or listen, they would know that.
No, that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to read and listen for them, and so get me to help me get them to that point. So yes.
Well,
please.
one thing, what we have
I
right
used to go
now,
through this with residents too.
what we have right now is not being suggested to take off the books. If you have someone creating loud noise, a neighbor complains and the police go and say, look, this is too loud, turn it down. They can still do that.
Okay.
It's just that amplified music can be allowed during those hours. If they go way over, if they're, if a hard rock band comes in and wants to crank up their speakers outside, they can't do that. The police can go in and say, stop.
Well, unless it's Duran Duran.
That's right.
That's right.
But where I was just discussing with the mayor is just that to that next point. So then where do you put that line? We got to somehow put that line up there.
It's in the commercial core. And they can play their music from down until 8:30, Sunday through Thursday, until 9:30, Friday and Saturday. In the commercial core. Commercial core goes from Meadowlark to Wagner Lane, and it goes 300 feet each side, east and west. That's the commercial core. And they're probably going to be a commercial business. Okay. Zach.
So the way I'm understanding Councilor Miara's question is not the limits on the boundaries, but the limits on the noise. What keeps some band? Because 99% of the time it's going to be self-governing. If we go down to Costa Vieja or Ex Novo, the crowd is going to look like us. And I was just at a concert and I had earplugs in, and if it gets too loud, I leave. So there's going to be some self-governance there, but 1% of the time when it does get too loud, what do we have to keep that from happening in the off chance that some punk band shows up at Casa Vieja and there's no one there to listen and they're just playing as loud as they possibly can?
We have a rule, and we have police officers who can enforce the rule because they have a firm black and white time limit.
I think this though exempts them up until 9:59 from that rule.
That's where I was coming from. Exactly.
But what I'm saying is I would recommend that the current rule we have that says when music is, that's what I wanted, Chief. What section is that under the current noise ordinance that sets that limit for that you have trouble enforcing now, but it's still.
Well, Randy, Mayor and Council, it's very vague, right? It's unreasonably loud, disturbs the peace of another, right? The officers, they've been responding to the current situation. There is a case pending in court. We're awaiting judicial adjudication of this matter. And I understand that the deadline is October. It's about a year from the time that the case was filed. And so we're waiting to see what conditions the judge imposes. I can't speak for the court, right? I'm not even gonna try to. So but the majority of the time, then the officers have responded. They have listened and reported back to me that they're not necessarily finding it to be unreasonable by their standards, but whose standards are we using? Right. But they will go. Yeah, and they will go to the allegedly offended businesses, though, ask them to turn it down, and they've been getting compliance.
Right. But, and I think that subjectivity is beneficial. I mean, if you pull over a car going 80 miles an hour down Cross Road, you're going to arrest them 90% of the time, unless there's a big lady in the back sweating and about to have a baby, and then you're going to escort them to the hospital. And it's the same with something like this. There's got to be a little bit of officer discretion.
Absolutely.
That they can say, hey, this, I know you don't love it, but or I know you don't love it, but this is manageable.
Councilor Knight.
Also, I think it talked about when music could start. And I think, it's, some people had said, well, there's 13 hours a day it's going. That's not true. It's maybe from 5 or 6 o'clock until 8:30 or 9. but it doesn't start at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So can we have restrictions that way when music and amplified music could start? So it would only be in the evenings?
I don't, I mean, do you even want to entertain that and give it a rule? Because we all know that there's nobody playing 13 hours a day.
Yeah, but then
I mean,
somebody is saying.
they're saying that, but you don't want to give credibility to the statement by making a rule to enforce something that's not true. I mean, we can disallow unicorns in the village
Councilor
too.
Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So my biggest problem is with number 10 that is proposed, and Mr. Councilor Burkett brought this up. There is a level which has to be acceptable that, okay, it's within the commercial core. But when you get outside the commercial core and you can still hear it, then it's in violation of the ordinance. And the way it is written right now, no amplification is allowed at all in our rules.
But do you have a stereo in your back patio?
No.
Do you have one in your car?
I may have one in my car, but.
Because if you drive with your windows down, that's amplified music.
Yes, and I could probably be pulled over in Charlottesville because there are people who have boom boxes on those cars that are in violation of ordinances. But the problem is I don't think you can have unlimited noise levels within the commercial core. Now, as Mr. Audio pointed out, if we put it into the land use ordinances, maybe that's where we can control it better. That seems to be a better solution to me.
Good idea, better.
But at some point, you just can't say that they're exempt and here comes Duran and they pop up at the Sears house. No, quiet, please. Let's get serious about this for a minute. If they show up at the Sears house for a wedding and they are blasting away at 140 dB, and they're exempt because that's the rule that was written.
But they have to finish by 10.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What I was suggesting is that the current ordinance be left in place that says if music is unreasonably, if anything is unreasonably loud, the police can issue a citation against that person if they won't
Yeah.
stop
And-
making that loud noise. That has been effective in most instances, I would venture to say.
One of the criticisms we've had, I mean, this, Mr. Audio, I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the criticisms we have is lack of enforcement. That has been a standard criticism within this village all the time.
Yes, but it's not because they haven't tried. They try. But they don't get anywhere. I'm sorry, Melanie, go ahead.
I was just wondering if I could ask a question of Randy. If we put this in as stated that the noise is exempt only in the commercial corridor, right? And we have a limit of where the commercial corridor is. If the noise can be heard outside that corridor, would that be considered a violation of the ordinance?
It's where it originates.
We need to clarify that in the ordinance because right now it would be up to interpretation.
Yeah.
And Randy, can I ask you, in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, we talked about decibel meters and, being an expert qualified to use the equipment, having it calibrated. Who was operating that equipment in those jurisdictions? Was it the police? Was it code enforcement?
Code enforcement, noise enforcement officers.
That's another point that, we're not dealing with criminal or traffic offenses here. The police, yes, we're the ones who are there after 5 PM. We do have to respond to disturbances. We do believe in addressing quality of life issues, not just crime and traffic, but that's not our primary role. So I would like to see a more active role on the part of code enforcement in all of this. It is under the environmental chapter right now, not criminal offenses.
Right.
We're there to keep the peace.
And they don't work at night, code enforcement.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so would you, yes, sir.
Mayor, if I could I ask the chief, when you come across instances, house parties or something like that, it's too loud. Is it typical that people will respond and they'll shut it down or tamp it down?
Council, Mayor, Council, yes, I'm not aware of any instance where they give us the middle finger and tell us we're gonna play it as loud as we want, right? And then, of course, we would have to do something, issue a citation or, find out who's responsible for generating that noise for the property, take it from there. But our goal, which we normally almost always 100% of the time get, is voluntary compliance. That's where like I said, we're there to keep the peace, to maintain order, not to issue citations and read decibel levels and measure distance from a bar patio to somebody's patio, to somebody's front door.
But it would be voluntary compliance to something that is written that we're making an issue about, and you're referring to like section 2-4-5. It's got to be written, and right now it says
Very,
unlimited. So
very vague. And so, I think like going back to the specific case that generated this conversation, right? The officers are going and they're not finding it to be unreasonable. And we're not talking about one police officer. We're talking about, half a dozen over the course of several months. But they're still doing their job. They're still trying to address the concerns of the complainant, and they go talk to the proprietor and they're getting compliance. So after about a half a dozen of these complaints last summer and fall, we made an administrative decision to file a charge and let the court get involved and see what type of resolution we could gain from the judicial process, and that's still pending. So, I can't comment on that. I can't interfere with the judicial process.
Yes, sir, Councilman.
Question for Randy. You mentioned about using the land use ordinances, but they can't be retroactive. It has to be only going forward. In other words, sound barriers, those kinds of things. So because we have businesses opening.
Well, the one way to do it is it's called an amortization period. You basically, when it's not the primary use, you can't take a use away from someone, like the commercial use. If someone built a building ex novo, for example, you can't legally go in and say you can no longer do a commercial business there. We allowed them, we zoned them, and we allowed them to open. Therefore, they have a vested right. But as part of their business, if they decide that they're going to launch rockets off of the open grass area, and we decide that that's dangerous to the community, we could tell them to stop launching rockets. In 1 year, you're going to be prohibited, or whatever economically reasonable time period you choose, you can take those things away. We did it with helicopters in Albuquerque. At first, there were no regulations on where to land helicopters. So one of the news stations was landing a jet helicopter right across the street from houses down in the country club area. And obviously that wasn't a good thing. So we regulated it and we said, you can continue that use for a certain period of time, and then you've got to stop it.
So let me ask you specific if I could. We have a new bar/restaurant perhaps open today. They have several outside decks. The assumption is will be outdoor music playing in good weather. Since they're now open and we didn't require anything at the time, we can't now go back and say you have to put up some sound barriers or make sure it's not elevated or whatever.
If we put a regulation in place, it would be similar to the light issue that came up tonight. If you have a dark skies ordinance, you can require all new businesses to retrofit dark skies, and you can require businesses over a period of time to retrofit and go to dark skies. So it's the same thing. You can do that. There's pushback. It's hard to do. It's hard to accomplish, but you can pass safety and welfare regulations like that across the community and make everyone comply. It's just, like I said, then you're winning some friends and you're making some enemies.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I
got
guess
this
we'll
there.
take it back to the drawing board and try to work something out. But we want to have something that's relatively straightforward and simple that police officers can enforce. Tired of hearing this, that nobody enforces the rules. I think we need to do that. It's important. Now, we have talked about this whole thing of noise. I don't have an issue with any of the ones around me, but other people might. I don't know. But we'll try to work something out. So we'll move on from that. We're going to have a presentation by the County Assessor Linda Gallegos on 8/27.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, it turns out that different counties have different rules. And so her rules are going to probably be different than Valencia. And who was the other one you wanted to get together? There were three.
Well, there's Bernalillo County.
Bernalillo. But so we need to focus on us.
Sure.
And she's going to tell us a lot, and we're going to try to get that out also. I think I put some in the mayor's message, didn't I? Yeah, I don't know if anybody picked it up.
And then you also gave us some paperwork. She gave us some paperwork.
Anyway, and that was to kind of help you understand where this whole agricultural thing comes from. So she's going to talk about that and answer your questions. Then we're going to have a discussion of possible changes to the lighting ordinance. Where'd that come from?
That was at the request from Sherry. She,
Oh, okay.
code
People are
enforcement.
people are no longer shooting down. They're letting it.
I don't remember exactly what it is. I'd have to look at her proposed. It was something kind of,
We actually have a
minimal.
pretty good lighting ordinance.
Yeah, it was something like just a small change that she is requesting that would assist her in being able to enforce. Again, we're going back to enforcement.
And it's the
Um,
same thing with the vegetation.
Yes, that is also at the request of Sherry.
Yes, no, I
to
think
help
that.
her.
And then we'll come back with the ordinances 12, 13, and 14 for adoption. And that'll be on September 10th. Now, there's something else that's coming up and someone else is going to come and talk.
Chris Allen from the Comprehensive Plan Committee is going to come and give us an update on 827 as well. So at the next meeting.
So there's your comprehensive plan update. Anything else? Anything else somebody wants to put on the? We have a huge whiteboard full of a whole bunch of stuff.
Still want to see something on Salsa Park. Want to see where we're going with that.
Saucy Park's been appraised. It's been appraised at a.
I don't want it appraised. I want to know how we can improve it and put it back in service.
Oh, and we've been trying for 10 years at the Parks and
know.
Rec, and there's
Well-
Veterans Memorial. I mean, everything
That's
gets.
not
no.
gonna, that's not gonna.
Right.
We were trying to figure out a way to sell it.
No, don't sell it. Just put in some drought resistant plants, make a pathway around, put some chairs around it, do a minimum maintenance on it, and then put it back out there.
People don't want people up there.
Yeah.
People don't want
Council
cars
Holman,
parked.
that-
They don't want little boys running behind the trees that you plant up there and peeing. They don't want that stuff happening.
That's.
You know, if
Oh, is
people,
that gonna be on the tape?
Sure is.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, you're kind of far away from your mic.
Forgot that one.
People don't want it.
That was actually said in a council meeting.
Yeah.
All right. So we've done the business of the village. Anything else you can think of? You have any ideas about noise or about, well, anything, send me an email.
I was wishing I could turn my hearing aids down earlier tonight, but I couldn't.
You wish you could do what?
Turn my hearing aids down a little bit. So
Well, you could just take them out.
maybe.
Or you could get you a book on tape and plug it into your hearing aid. That's what my wife does, so she doesn't have to listen to me. All right.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I'm opening up a can of worms again.
I hope so.
When I went to go to the restroom, I was approached by a few people saying that, Main Street will lose some funding or the arts will lose some funding.
Probably.
And I said, well, they could come back and ask us for money.
Good luck.
All right.
Well, if we have money to give, I mean, that would be a good thing to do, don't you think?
I'm gonna let you ask Raina.
Yes, cool.
Right.
Let you ask Raina, do we have any money?
But your statement there got me a little bit, that they're gonna lose some money, not because of our actions tonight.
Well, if you don't, probably not for our actions tonight.
Okay, I think that's where she was going.
Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of Raina, have we got a shadower or somebody's going to shadow her since she's looking at?
Not yet. We're working on it.
Okay. Gotta be good. Somebody's gotta be good.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.
And council, we do need signatures from you before you go, please.
I signed 2 things. Do I have more? Oh, there's